Which pen is which one? That's the
Right.
row, this is the block.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the March 2nd meeting of the Town of Standish Planning Board. Meeting will now come to order. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all the exhibits that are offered. Please notify me if you are unable to hear or see material. The board works from a prepared agenda. This evening, we have one finding of fact for Dana Lamprin Revocable Trust for a private way. We have two items of old business, Westerly Way for a 3-lot subdivision, and Farmers House LLC for Woodland Heights subdivision up off Route 114. And we have 3 items of new business. One is Woods Aggregate for blasting permit, and then Todd Foss for welding shop, and then Robert Randall for subdivision off the end of Dana Lamprin's private way and Route 25. For anybody interested, the welding shop, we've been asked by Mr. Foss if we would table that to the April meeting. Will he get some of his paperwork in place? So we'll be taking that up very shortly. And there are no miscellaneous public hearings. The applicant has the burden to prove to the board that their application is complete and meets all applicable town standards. Any person wishing to address the board may do so in accordance with the following procedures. Please utilize the podium. We have a new system here on our audio, and it'll make it easier for us to hear you. The board will open the public hearing for the applicant to present their project. Then the town planner will provide his assessment of the project and hear responses from the applicant, followed by board members, which will then ask questions and hear responses. The hearing will then be open to the public for comment, and the applicant can respond to those comments. The board may receive any oral or documentary evidence, but such evidence is restricted to subject matter of the agenda item. The board shall exclude irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious evidence. Citizens shall refrain from interrupting other speakers. This meeting is being tape recorded. It's very difficult to hear what is being said when multiple people speak at the same time. Citizens shall avoid personal attacks and conduct themselves in a civil, courteous manner as expected by all participants. All questions should be addressed through the chair. Speakers shall not attempt to engage in debate with other meeting participants. Upon hearing from the public, the hearing will be closed for that application, and the board will deliberate and vote on the application. And lastly, following the decision on the application, either towards the end of the meeting or at the board's next regular meeting, the board will prepare a written finding of facts and approve them for the record. And this evening, we have 6 members present, so we have a quorum. Good to go on that. We do not have the minutes for February. We'll see those in the future to review. And first item of business is finding facts for the Dana Lamprin Irrevocable Trust, 63 Osprey Trail East, map 10, lot 97A, application for a private way.
Mr. Chair, I have the old finding of fact, but I make a motion to move the board grant approval of the private way on map lot 10-97A as submitted by Drew Gagnon on behalf of Dana Lamprin under the provisions of the Standish Land Use Code, having found it met the criteria and standards of subsection 252-31 and all other relevant standards of the zoning ordinance, with the following conditions. As I said, we have the electronic version of the updated finding of fact, but mine I can't read all 5 because I only have 4. So I'll leave that to you.
We want to read all the conditions?
No, but I just was saying, if someone hands me I don't have the updated one.
Everybody print off and get a chance to look at condition 5.
Yes.
Yep.
No, I did not.
I did not.
It was the last item that was added, and it basically says that the turning radii for the emergency vehicles must be verified and accommodated on the plans, because it looked like one of the intersections was quite tight. So they were gonna put a turning guide on that and check it out.
So I'll add that in the sense, the four conditions that are, you want me to read the other four?
I'm good with them.
Okay, as I said,
Verbatim.
I can read them if you
They
want, but
helps.
if not, I've got.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
I'm gonna take my seat into the audience.
Okay. Okay, first item of old business, Westerly Way, map 20, lot 8, subdivision application, the 3-lot subdivision. One of our board members works in the area, so he's stepped down for this meeting. Mr. Seymour, I believe you have the floor.
Seymour, civil engineer with Sebago Technics, representing 7631 Mass Landing LLC for this 3-lot subdivision located off Westerly Way. We were before the board a few months back. At that time, there was a lot of confusion with regards to how we determine front yard setback, lot frontage. We since have resolved that with the town. What we've done with the new plan here is we have, let me get my pointer out here. Choice. In this area right here, we've put a jog in the property so that we have ample setback from the wetlands for that lot, which is on the lower yellow lot. That is found to be acceptable by the planner and by the town, code enforcement officer, I believe. Comprises now 3 lots with a private road coming off Westerly Way. As you can see in the gray, the road at the end diverts into 2 driveways to serve the 2 lots that have frontage on Sebago Lake. The one pink lot has access off of the internal road as well. It has frontage off that private way. Tonight, we're simply asking for a preliminary, and we have also acquired a draft of a road association, which we'll be providing to town final plan, as well as a list of names for the preferred road names. We know that that's got to go through some town review to make sure there's no names of similar nature. We're still waiting on DEP for amended site location. We've been expecting that now for a few months, but it's the DEP and they do what they want on their time. This has no time restraints as it is an amendment, so they're not under any immediate rush, but we keep moving forward, hoping that it's coming any day now. So again, tonight we're just looking for the discussion on anything. I think we've gone over lots of this stuff before, and tonight we're just looking for a preliminary approval so we can proceed to the final application.
Okay, thank you. Would you add anything, Scott?
That sums it up pretty well. The last meeting we talked about this, we've pretty much gotten all our questions for preliminary answered, except for this question about the lot configuration. And we submitted to you the communications that we've had about that, narrowing down exactly how this works in this situation. And the lot layout that's presented here tonight is acceptable under the ordinance, so we're all set there. I think we're good to get preliminary approval.
Okay. Do we ever hear anything back from Public Safety and Public Works?
I mean, I've talked to them and we had some communication back in December from them that they had no issues with this as shown at that time.
as well as the applicant has met with the Westerly Way Road Association, and I believe they have come to an agreement with them as well for use of the private way, Westerly Way, up to the point that they access their road.
Scott, sorry, Mr. Chair, I had a question.
Go ahead.
Scott, the only question I had was with the jog, sorry, when I was reviewing plans this weekend, was the turning radius, because it is a private way, don't get me wrong, but turning for any, like, sorry, for lack of better terms, fire trucks, because it's not going to be a public road, so I'm not worried about plow trucks. I was just concerned, or school buses, believe it or not, because that's not the thought process. I just was concerned with the really radical, sorry, it seems like it's a pretty steep. Is the turning radius, is public safety not worried about the turning radius of the fire equipment?
As it's laid out at this time, I've gone over this with the chief, and we didn't have any concerns.
Okay, as long as you've talked to the chief.
The road portion of it is laid out to all standards. It is a long driveway down to the lake, but the chief was okay with it.
As I said, because it's a private way, I'm not concerned with the public plow trucks or things like that, because it would have to be handled. Public safety was my only concern. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Question, I guess, to you, Scott. The first section down to the Hammerhead turnaround, where there's 3 units on that, then that has to be built to town standards.
So this is the waiver that is requested here from subdivision standards. So any road, no matter how many units, if it's in a planning board subdivision approval, is supposed to be built to public standards.
Yeah.
And we've been proposing, given this is only serving 3 units and there's no real connections that this can make to neighboring properties, they're all developed, that it was a reasonable, and that it cannot really ever be accepted as a public road feasibly because it's coming off of a private road, that it is acceptable for the board to waive that requirement such that it be built to the standards that we would allow a private road to be built to that serves 3 units.
So 16 feet for the first section and just 12 for the remainder?
Yeah, as shown.
Those are the 2.
Off the top of my head, but yes, the 16 feet is definitely for the actual public road portion that serves the 3 units and that they get frontage off. That would be the 16-foot is what we allow for a private way serving 2 to 5 dwelling units. It's outside of the subdivision, so we're just saying that in this subdivision, given the conditions here, given under the allowances that we have to waive things under, let's see, the subdivision chapter, 107B gives a ability to waive requirements that based on a lack of connecting facilities adjacent or in proximity to the proposed subdivision. And that all seems to be exactly what this is there.
And the section of the right-of-way is 16 feet, and the driveway is off the end of 12.
So it narrows down right, just in the easement?
Yes. Well, actually, no.
16 all the way.
The property line runs up the center of the right-of-way
Yeah.
to the point right here. So the right-of-way is split going down to that point. Then each driveway comes off its portion of the right-of-way. So it Y's.
So it's 16 all the way down to the
Okay.
Y.
Yep, exactly.
So it's 16 to the point where it serves 2 units.
So on the detail sheet, then the access drive section, the 12-foot wide is within that easement area?
It's just the
Yep, right there.
forks
down
off the
there?
end
Okay.
It's 16 from
of slots.
Westerly Way to the end of the actual right-of-way, right there.
So the waiver would be from going from 22 feet down to 16.
Yeah, the waiver is that they don't have to build a full public road, standard road.
Could you just go through what the decision was that the attorneys came up with relative to frontage, just so the board has a
Yeah,
understanding?
it's
of that?
determined that that right-of-way section, well, I won't do it on the map over there. This right-of-way section here is the actual frontage. So that front setback would be along here, so that that house could go there or could go anywhere within this window here. Because that's considered the road frontage, so it doesn't have to be 90 degrees from the shore.
And the lot frontage along the shore is
Still
just in
200,
shoreline zoning?
just in shoreline zoning, and that is 200 feet plus on each of those two lots.
That was an interesting letter from the attorney. I didn't find it all that convincing personally. He stated the dilemma we were having, left it at that, and then said, well, I guess, I guess there's enough property, so sure. That's how I interpreted that attorney letter. Disappointing.
Established there are two measurements of lot width, one in shoreland that was measured at 100 feet off the water frontage, at which we meet. And then a lot width within our land use ordinance that should be measured off of the lot line closest to the right of way and is fully independent of the shoreland width, and therefore may or may not be in the same direction as that. And in this case, the front, the right of way is the access drive. So lot width is measured parallel to that, the long axis of these lots. So it meets that because it's well in excess of the 200 feet required along that way. So we can narrow it up here because we don't have any lot depth requirements.
Perhaps since we have an ordinance member in the audience, that would be some definitions that they consider going forward, because they are very vague.
It wouldn't hurt, just touch them up a little bit.
Take a look at it.
A little bit clearer, that's all, for future developments.
See, you come to meetings and you get picked on. Or homework given.
And we did have two, well, I guess, any other thing from the board members? Shall we open it up to the public?
Excuse me.
Motion to open up to the public?
I'll make a motion to open up the, in a sense, meeting to public comment.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Very good. Did Paul Draconic, is he here this evening? No? We received two, I'll just highlight what they are. There's two, I guess these were emails that were sent in, or an email and a text maybe. One of them is relative to dimensional requirements, and he says he knows this is not how measurements are calculated. He doesn't claim to be a surveyor. I guess from my perspective of that, the board needs to rely on the information provided. If the PLS is an error, then it might be a civil issue
relative to the dimensions of the lot, but I don't think that's anything we can, it's out of our hands at this point. And the other one is a letter that he sent to Sam Shepherd at the Bureau of Land Resources. Have you received both of those, Jim?
We have, to your point, they've been professionally surveyed, and we feel very confident that we've got the dimensions correct. On the second one, with regards to DEP, as I mentioned, this is to the DEP. However, I just want to point out that these lots exceed the dimensional requirements. They're 4.2, 3.2, and 5.5 acres for single-family lots. And I understand that they're on the lake, and these are sensitive properties, but those are still much larger than most properties on the lake. And we have built with those 4 dark green areas, our wooded buffers to treat the phosphorus. So again, we feel we've complied with Maine DEP phosphorus standards, as this is amended site location. We understand that it's gone through the engineering process. The only thing that was left was we're waiting on a geological letter from the reviewer on that. So we're confident as well that we've complied with all DEP standards.
And then just to back up, we received I guess this is a email from Lou Wood relative to the agreement. The members have seen it, but there is an agreement between the developer and the Westerly Way Road Association relative to funding and how it will be used. So that has been addressed. That was an item. And I guess that's what I have so far. We talked about the attorneys thing. All right, anyone from the public like to speak on this?
If you do, just to come to the dais and state your name and, you know, where you live.
No one?
Don't worry, Mr. Seymour will give way, you know.
Well, I'll get away right now.
I don't think you're gonna have an issue, Mr. Seymour.
Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Usually people get up.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Very good, thank you. First item we have to address is whether we have adequate information. There's a list of items that they provided this evening: the subdivision plan, application, deed, at least 2 soil test pits for each lot, wetland delineation, soils report, financial capacity. You have that, Scott?
Financial capacity.
You have that?
Yeah, we had all of that.
Okay. The stormwater report as revised. And Jim just talked to us a little bit about DEP, so you're still waiting for the amended site location.
Correct. And at that time, we'll, once we get those stormwater comments back or their approval of the stormwater, then we'll address any of the outstanding Goral Palmers at that time.
Based on that, is there a motion to find the application for Westerly Way residential subdivision as submitted by Sebago Techniques complete as presented for review purposes?
Make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. To find the application for Westerly Way residential subdivision as submitted by Sebago Techniques complete as presented for review purposes. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. So then we need to address the waiver. And there's no water in Westerly Way, right?
No.
It's all drilled wells.
It's all drilled wells, yes.
And as I go down through here, the next item I had highlighted was the 18183, the performance guarantee, and There are two different options, I guess, that we could, and that'll be at final?
Yeah, I mean, typically we do the performance guarantee at final for a 3-lot subdivision like this without public infrastructure. We usually use the provision in the ordinance that just says they cannot sell any of the lots until everything's complete and usable. So I think that's what we'd probably go with, but we usually do that under final.
Carol?
You put on the plan or?
Yeah, there's some language.
I'd like to change that a little bit. I don't know if we would need a full performance guarantee for that, but I'd hate to see land disturbed and then the project not finished and there's no money for loam, seed, anything to bring it back up to appropriate standards. So it doesn't have to be the full amount, but I think there should be some,
For erosion control.
yes, right.
Especially because, sorry, Mr. Chair, it's because it's on where it's located, because it's in the shoreland area and because of its proximity to Sebago Lake, having some, let's say, runoff protection in the best interests of, the.
We have no objection to that.
I don't know how to calculate that number, but
Craft something.
They do that with
for the-
part of.
Yeah, I think we provided you, I know we provided you a cost estimate, and that number may be within the cost estimate.
Yeah, we'll look into it. I think at this point, again, we usually don't set that number till final anyway, but
Right,
we can
but-
express that interest, so as part of the final commission, we get a stabilization cost.
And that could be a condition of approval at that point in time.
yeah.
So,
Sorry, Mr. Seymour, I brought my Westerly Way back. I think, it was in this one.
and again, the 18197, that deals with boundary markers, that would be a condition of approval with the final plan.
Yeah.
All right. The next item then is to deal with the way. Staff recommendations move requirement for subsection 181-97C that frontage and access may not be provided over a private way be waived as allowed under subsection 181-107B on the grounds that there is a lack of connecting facilities adjacent, I guess it's to or in proximity to the proposed subdivision. Get this off, I will make that motion.
Second, it.
Second. And I think what we're, basically, this lot will never be further divided. That's my theory behind those, and as long as fire chief, I guess, or public safety people are happy with the access road down through there, if they have to get in there, I don't have an issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're using the established private road standard that the town's worked out, that we're comfortable with serving. So.
Yep. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Very good. So there are a few items to take care of before we give final approval. And there's a list of potential conditions of approval, I guess, on here.
They all look reasonable, and we'll continue to work with the DEP and the stormwater compliances as well.
And we'll add 8 will be the one relative to erosion control.
I mean, we'd probably
Reclamation.
amend the
Yeah, you
two
got
as
one,
the
two.
existing performance guarantee language, so we would,
Yeah.
we'd be fiddling with that to.
Tweak number 2 then. Okay. All right. Let's see if there's anything else I had on the plan before. Probably gonna wanna add some pins on that jog around the house, on your jog you put in there. Just so that they have
that's pretty close proximity to houses. They're gonna want that marked so that. Don't want JP out there guessing what setback is.
No, we'll put things on all his jobs.
Guess that's it, from my perspective. All right. Staff has recommended a motion, move that the planning board grant preliminary approval under the provisions of the Standish Land Use Code of the Westerly Way residential subdivision as submitted by Sebago Technics, having found it to meet the review criteria of Chapter 181, Part 3, subdivision regulations, all other relevant standards, and the local ordinance and the requirements of Title 30A, Chapter 187, subsection 4404 of the Maine State Statutes for subdivision review.
I make such a motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to grant preliminary approval. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll see you when you hear from DEP, I guess.
And we'll keep you informed, Scott, of updates with that as we get them.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Before we move forward, I think we should address the Todd Foss request for tabling till the April meeting in case there are members of the public here to discuss that.
Sure. I make a motion that we move the Foss thing from new business up to now.
No.
No, we were asked by Mr. Foss to table that motion. Are you here to represent Mr. Foss?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the phone. I'm doing the farmhouse LLC.
Okay, no, we're just moving that in front of it because it's gonna, sorry, Dave.
It's gonna be one quick vote in case there was somebody here so that they could just leave if they wanted to.
Okay,
We're not gonna review anything.
Yeah. In case somebody had
We
a,
are the LLC, the farmhouse, it's just not this part.
yeah.
Just doing things a little out of order. We will still get to the farmhouse LLC shortly.
Yeah,
Next.
like 1 minute.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we table in a sense the Todd Foss, 71 Pawcatuck Trail, map 5, lot 57, site plan application for a welding shop till our April meeting.
Second.
Seconded to table the Todd Foss application until the April meeting. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Just wanted to get that addressed so that we didn't have people sitting here. Item number 2, Farmhouse LLC, Woodland Heights, Richville Road, Mayor to gravel pit, subdivision application for final approval.
So Charlie, Rob got held up at work. He's on the way. He's almost here right now. Maybe we can skip to we can go after the next item.
That works, board members okay with that?
Yeah, we have plenty of other stuff to do.
Yeah, we've got the blasting application for woods
Yep.
aggregates.
That'll be
We can
fast.
do
That'll be
that.
fast.
All right, we'll move ahead to the next item. Which is item of new business, wood aggregate, 249 Middle Road, map 9, lot 24, blasting application.
Good evening, board. We're here for our renewal of our blasting application. I think this is our third or fourth time in front of you for the same application. Nothing's changed on our end. It's essentially the same application as the past 3 or 4 years. Approximately 10 blasts, 150,000 cubic yards per year. Through our record keeping, we've been averaging 7 to 10 blasts per year, and that 100 to 150,000 yards per year. So been pretty stable on our end. Nothing new, just a renewal, continuing operation.
No issues with DEP or town?
Anybody? So this is just blasting permits expire after 365 days. So they've got to come back every year if they want to keep doing it.
It's basically in the middle of the area, right?
Correct. Yep.
That's what happens.
board members, if I did my math right, if you take 150,000 yards and you divide it by a 15-yard dump truck over the number of days, we'd have four trips a day, so it's not a big number of fresh stone coming out of it.
Not that there's anything wrong with what you're doing. We don't want you like suddenly to feel like you have to go on trips.
No, that's just the number.
Mr. Brown was doing math.
It sounds like a big number when they say 150,000 yards, but when you put it in the number of trucks per day, it's not that significant, I guess, that's all. Just trying to run those numbers in my head, so. Okay. And so we open it up to the public?
Yeah.
Or board members, any board members have anything concerns? Sean? Good. Motion to open it up to the public?
Make a motion, we open up, in a sense, this item to the public comment.
Moving, saying to open it up for public comment?
Just
further
cede the
discussion by
floor
the
for
board?
a second, gentlemen.
Seeing
Thank
none?
you.
All those in favor? Good.
Anyone from the public wish to comment on the blasting permit? Yes. I know, you stood up, so that gave that away. That or the restroom, but like, that's okay. That's a toss-up for me too.
Name's Curtis Thurston. I live at 620 Oak Hill Road. And where they're blasting is on the backside of my property. And all of a sudden I start noticing, and I live in a brand new house, 5 years old. I got doors that don't close, found pieces of crack. The cellar floor is starting to crack. I don't know if they open blast or cover it, but we had people going on through the backside of our property that we totally could use for hunting. And they're saying they're finding rocks and stuff up onto our property. And I don't know if they can, some way they can control it so they have a very little blast at a time, or, but like I said, I live in a 5-year-old house and I'm starting to see a lot of things that are happening that shouldn't be happening. And I had a good carpenter or contractor build that house. He builds them all over the place. And just getting to the point that it gets very costly for me to repair something that somebody else is breaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks like to speak on that? Was there a pre-blast survey done on these houses?
Yeah, so we offered a pre-blast survey to everybody within, I believe is, I have to look back at our records, but it was the main DEP standard at the time. So obviously, if you were offered a pre-blast survey, I highly recommend, reach out to us outside of these hours, and we can kind of communicate those issues separately. If there's an issue, we would hopefully have some video pre-blast to understand if it was an issue from us or our blasting company rather, or something that was pre-existing.
So they actually video, you blast and they video like what happened?
We offered a pre-blast survey, which includes video cammering of foundations prior to any blast that we have done.
Oh,
in
so
the
it's like before and after, okay.
Yeah, so before we've done any blast, we offered everybody within the DEP's radius a pre-blast survey, which includes cammering of their foundation, correct? So we'd have records of, if something like this happened, we could, kind of determine the cause and effect. But we're willing to work with you, of course, if anything is an issue, and we'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Carolyn?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Carol?
So is that survey put out there every year, every time this application gets renewed?
The pre-blast survey was done prior to the first blasting. So prior to any blasting that we've done, those surveys were done.
If somebody moves in, would they be aware of that pre-blast survey?
We do monitor, new homeowners as far as the blasting company, so they would be in charge of monitoring and making sure those are up to date.
Who would be?
We use a third-party blasting company. We don't personally do any blasting.
You typically cover in your area? You typically cover in the area, or is it open blast?
We do, so in a pit scenario like this, it is open blast because we are doing such small blasts at a time. And we are such a distance away from any residents or buildings.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't think I understood the answer to that question. So the other company does the blasting, and they're the ones that reach out to the different homeowners to do the pre-blast surveys?
Yeah, so the blasting company, it's their insurance that covers the blasting.
Yeah,
So they are responsible for the pre-blast and post-blast surveys.
If requested, right? 'Cause, sorry, my thing is if the homeowner doesn't ask for a survey, they're not magically having to contact every abutter and say, have you gotten a survey? Do you want a survey? That kind of thing.
They're initially offered, and if they're declined, they don't do them. So if you don't want somebody coming in and videotaping your house,
right.
you can decline that service.
I still am wondering, like he has a 5-year-old house. So if you started blasting 6 years ago and he came in after that initial blast, would he ever have had the opportunity to do that pre-blast survey? That's what I'm trying
We've
to
only been
get.
blasting there for 3 or 4 years,
Yeah,
so he would have had experience. There are some newer homes that have been built in that time frame that we have offered that survey to.
okay.
Sorry, just one second. Ma'am, I think you want to speak?
My question is how far,
Come to the, sorry, ma'am, come to the dais.
my question is how far from.
And please announce your name.
Sandra Thurston.
Okay.
How far from the pit to the nearest house, how far around from the pit do they survey the houses? Because we were there a year before you got.
Yeah, so I believe the main standard is for pits in this application is half a mile,
It's how many feet?
2,000,
Yeah.
2,500 or so.
That's about the depth of my lot.
Yeah,
So right there. It's
Yeah.
on the-
so
on the back doorstep here. So we never had that survey.
if you were outside of that 2,500 foot, that would be outside of the main standard.
So remember when the big earthquake hit off the coast and it was felt all the way to New York and Pennsylvania and everywhere? Well, we blasted on Monday and on Thursday we had that earthquake. And I thought it was another blast coming. That's how much it shakes our house. It's like, cause the earthquake went further down the road and, cause it's all granite ledge and shale, it's, the whole top of Oak Hill is all connected, right, all that rock. That's blasting now. So somebody said, oh, they wanna put a gravel pit at the top of Oak Hill, up behind the tower. And that's gonna affect everybody's houses and stuff, cause like it's all just solid rock all over the top of Oak Hill. Granite and shale, it's all connected, same as the aquifer, cause my well dropped 23.5 feet a month after we moved in. And the guy came and he said, well, wells dropped in Porter, Buxton, Baldwin, all the same time. So I figure it's all out of the same aquifer. So it's the same with the rock, on top of Oak Hill, it's all connected. So you feel it when they blast, that shakes the house, windows rattle sometimes, not every time. Sometimes it's just a big bang, it scares the crap out of you, then another one. Don't know what's gonna happen. But, yeah, so that one last summer, just the few days before the earthquake, I thought when the earthquake started, it was them gonna blasting again. So to see the comparison, how it feels the vibrations in the house when they blast.
They put seismic.
Question, when they come and apply.
Don't forget to state your name.
Tony Folsom.
I know you are.
Okay, thank you. When they come and apply for a new blasting permit, should they be required to go and tell the new owners that they're getting closer to their houses or anything like that? Because if you're going from one side of the blasting pit, and you're moving to someone else's closest to your lot, then they might say, oh, at this point, oh geez, now I'm gonna have damage to my house. So I just think that's something that you guys should think about as far as,
But if they move the blasting around,
yes, if they're moving the blast, and if they're going from one side of the pit to another side to over here, now all of a sudden what happened over here is, now you move over here and there's a house here like theirs, it could happen within the year. So did they send this out the very first time when there wasn't close to anybody's house?
We notice this meeting,
Huh?
we notice this every time.
You send notices to those guys from these guys that they can have the house inspected?
It's required under the ordinance every time the meeting happens.
So that's what they're
They've said they've
doing
reached out to
every time?
their property
Send
owners.
out every year that you come back here for,
It's in the weekly shoppers guide, Tony, we're talking about the fact of notice being in the weekly shoppers guide.
Yeah.
They post the fact of what's going on with this meeting. That's what
okay,
it's
but
talking
are they being notified?
individually,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think so.
We send letters out now.
I'm just asking if they keep it updated with the move in and getting closer to houses.
Is the blasting only happening in the red?
So a couple questions came up. They do seismic readings every time. And they've all been within Maine state standards. As far as if we're moving towards houses, we're actually moving away from houses. Every blast that we do is further and further away from the nearest house. So that will be less and less an issue as we move forward. And when we did the radius, it was in the center of our blasting location. So anything within those radiuses will be covered within our blasting pre-blast surveys.
So you're not notifying neighbors that you're applying for a new one and they want the house inspected at that point?
I believe butters are noticed every time we apply for this permit, annually.
Answer.
Andrew, you had a question?
Yeah, it just has a red box, and I get that's the center of the pit. Is that the only place the blasting is happening? I guess because Mr. Folsom.
The red box.
Sorry, he's
Yeah,
talking about this.
Yep, that is still accurate, correct.
It's not one end or the other.
Nope, it's still that,
That's the main.
yep, that is still accurate.
So the 2,000 feet that he's talking about most likely is the 620.
That blue line, yep, that you're seeing there, yep.
Okay.
That was the radius used for pre-blast surveys.
Yeah, so there are a few houses on Oak Hill that are just outside that.
Yep, correct. And to be known, when we're doing a commercial blast, the radius is much smaller. So that radius is a much more generous buffer for open blast. So it's, when we're doing a commercial blast in a commercial setting, as far as like, for any new project that you're seeing, that radius is much smaller. So this is a very generous pre-blast survey area.
Know if the Thurston house is the one you have the red line that goes to?
I'm not familiar which Thurston House is.
It is not, Charlie.
Not?
Oh, sorry, the 620 Oak Hill Road, I think is,
I'm not familiar with specific addresses.
no.
But you're not notifying houses, you're notifying property owners, right? Like, so it'd be any of the property owners? Or does it have to be a house?
Yeah, I believe you received notice of this meeting. That's why you're here. It's because they are a direct abutter. So no matter how far their house is, their property is immediately adjacent.
If it falls within that blue circle.
So a question, John. What is the solution? Because I know if my house was sustaining damage in my foundation or my walls from a blast, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't feel like everything's resolved just to know that it's right outside this blue border. So what's the answer to that?
The blue border, correct me if I'm wrong, the blue border is determined by the distance that the State Bureau of Mining has established as a reasonable distance from the epicenter of the blast.
Correct. That requires a pre-blast survey in this instance.
Right. So I think the only thing we could do would be to have the council modify ours to be more restrictive and extend it beyond that point. I don't think we have anything in our ordinance that I'm aware of that would extend it beyond the state requirement.
So the ordinance committee would have to meet to expand the ordinance beyond the state level to be a local level, and this is the local level, whatever the, ordinance committee submits and gets through the council and through the public, discussions.
Could a property owner do their own pre-blast survey somehow and have that recorded somewhere?
We would ask that they'd reach out to us to have that done, so it's recorded properly.
It's usually the blasting company that does it.
Correct.
Because they have to provide that to the insurance companies, I believe,
I'm,
upon request anyways.
yes. I know not anybody can see that. That's a very, there's some strict processes to that. So, but the homeowner would have to request that directly from the blasting company.
Okay, and that's something you could work out.
100%, yep.
Oh, great, thank you.
I think the solution is that the two of you get in touch, get your blasting company in touch with them, make sure that they're in communication. And per the ordinance, you can request that they notify you before they do any blasts, and that can give you at least some warning that they're gonna happen. And that would be helpful, at least in terms of the surprise and the earthquakes and all of that. So then you'll know that they're gonna happen and be expecting them. And so we can just put that in, you already notify us.
Correct.
And we'll just have to notify them as well.
Correct. We notify the town directly at 24 hours ahead of time. We can add that to the notification list as well.
That goes for the other pit right next to you too. They should also do the same thing because they also have
We got
blasting permit.
both the other pits, Shore Earthworks and
Shaw, yeah.
Pond, and both are out there
All three.
with yearly permits.
You guys don't all blast on the same day.
We
that
can't
would-
control what anybody else does, unfortunately.
Yeah, sure.
And it's tough to tell if it's us or somebody else.
I'd like to recognize your willingness to work with your neighbors and being a good steward, so thank you for that.
It's a very small community. We're here to be a part of it for long term.
Well done.
Right.
Did we close public comment? Sorry, I didn't.
I don't think we have a motion on that yet, do we?
I make a motion to close public comment on this matter.
Seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved, unanimous. Okay. Get a current proof of insurance. We have the maps superimposed on tax maps and aerials. Shows the abutters. And we have the blasting application, so it appears, and a request from the owner. It appears we have everything we need to move this subject.
All right.
Let me say this, to determine first that we have a complete application. Staff's recommendation was to find the application for blasting permit as submitted by Wood Excavation to be complete as presented.
I make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, find the application complete as presented. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. And staff has provided a recommended motion, move that the board grant approval of the blasting permit submitted by Wood Excavating under the provision of the Standish Land Use Code, having found it to meet the criteria and standards of subsection 181-16.1 and other relevant standards of the zoning ordinance for the following conditions
All blasting must be done in accordance with performance standards requirements for 181-16.1C, 181-16.1D. The approval will expire 365 days from the date of the approval as specified in subsection 181-16.1B7, and all conditions of previous approval for the gravel pit operation on the site are included, and this approval can remain in effect.
Make the motion as well as the, with the additional conditions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'll second it. Been moved and seconded. Further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now we can backtrack to item number 2.
See you next year.
Item number 2 is the second item of old business. Farmhouse LLC, Woodland Heights, Richville Road, formerly the Mayetta Gravel Pit, subdivision application for final approval.
Associate bought your time by asking us to move this.
Excuse me?
He basically, in a sense, bailed you out by saying you were running late.
Yeah,
So you owe him like a sandwich.
our schedule. Got a lot of meetings that got shuffled around and was wrong on my calendar, I apologize.
Okay, just. Covered.
You know that you have the site plan up on the, but another one up here, and there's some other demonstration. There we go.
It's all yours, Rob.
Okay. Good evening, Rob McSorley with Spangler Technics. I'm here representing the Farmhouse LLC. We're before you relative to the Woodland Heights subdivision. This is a about 96-acre property. It's in the rural district on the Richville Road, State Road 114. It was previously used as a gravel pit for several decades. The project before you tonight is a proposed subdivision of 30 lots in a conservation subdivision. The conservation area that we have for the property encompasses about 60 acres. Just a little history, prior meetings, we were before you in November of 2024 for a sketch plan. We were here a year ago, exactly for our initial meeting with you all. We had follow-up meetings in May and November of last year to deal with comments and give updates on our permitting through the Department of Environmental Protection. As part of this property, the conservation subdivision proposes to have significant buffering from the adjacent property. You can see around the property, we substantially moved the individual lots into the center of the lot or pit. We're protecting existing wetlands, which includes a significant vernal pool. We did go out there and survey that during the last season and determined it was a significant vernal pool. As part of the work that we're doing, we are going to be restoring part of the vernal pool upland area that was previously impacted as part of the gravel pit operations. Part of our permitting, we have reached out to MDOT. We have a driveway permit. There was some initial questions relative to a culvert that they had specified that we needed under the driveway. We went back to them. We had that modified because there really isn't any flowage that goes across it. It really will come into our project, a short section of Richville Road, and then the other portion goes down and continues off to the north. So that's in the package. We had extensive coordination with Maine IF&W relative to habitat protection and the restoration of the habitat. That took a better part of the year, and we resolved issues in November of last year. We were happy with the restoration we're planning to do and the impacts that the gravel pit had previously in the buffer of that vernal pool. We've undergone Maine's LODA review, including stormwater review, geological review relative to the groundwater potential impacts, waste removal and disposal, and specifically with the solid material management district, waste management, and brownfield departments. Those were specific to a concern relative to prior operations from target shooting out on the site. And we coordinated with DEP to address that issue. And I'll come back to that in a second. As part of the SLOTA review, we have been told that the permit has been drafted and has been pushed up to the supervisor. We do have our permit by rule for the impacts within the critical terrestrial habitat or the buffer of the vernal pool. As of Friday, it had gone back up to the supervisor, and there were 5 questions that came back on Friday, very minor in nature. And I would just like to go over those briefly with you so that you know what's still out there. One of the questions was relative to those impacts that are existing that were part of the gravel pit within the vernal pool habitat. This pit has been there for several decades. I think it was permitted in the 90s, but it was operating before that in the 80s. And operated up into the 2000s. When it was permitted, there were different rules in effect at that time. The NERPA rules at that time didn't look at smaller versions of wetlands back in that time. You're typically looking at an acre wetland impact when you looked at wetland impacts. Later on, MDP did modify the NERPA rules, and we now look at much smaller, down to 5,000 now is the limits for mitigation on that. The initial plan that was developed for the pit actually included excavation through the wetland area because it wasn't considered a jurisdictional area at that time. I assume that they didn't go all the way to the wetlands because there was diminishing returns as they got towards it, and there weren't really any material that they would get out of that, so that they weren't going to go in there and do any more excavation and whatnot. So there was really, all that impact happened before the change to the wetland rules, and also before vernal pools were actually an item in something that the DEP was regulating. I think the rules were 2007, if I'm right, and they started enforcing in 2008. And we have aerial photo back from before that that shows the impact occurred. Another comment was relative to the plan that we showed our amount of impact in the critical terrestrial habitat. And I have to admit that I spent Friday evening late recalculating that, and we were a little off, but we are still under the 25%. Our impacts went from 21 up to 23%. Still falls under the permit by rule guidelines, and we sent that on to the DEP. The next question they had was relative to the timing of construction on site, whether it will be restricted from 7 to 7. You have a noise ordinance, and it specifically states in there relative to construction 7 to 7. So we said we are going to abide by that timeframe. Question is whether the open space lots or area would be deed restriction. And it's very specific on the subdivision plan that there is no further development of the open space and it cannot be used for residential use. And the last comment they had was relative to comments that the geological department had relative to HHE 200 forms for the project. When we had submitted, of course, we submitted a lot of soil tests relative to high-intensity soil survey, but also relative to the subsurface systems. In some locations, because of restrictions relative to the elevation between grade and the restrictive layer, we had to propose to have more than one location on the site. Some of the locations were missing test pits. They got omitted for somehow. And the other issue was relative to, if you really looked at the plan, it looked like they'd be on a slope like that. Basically unbuildable. So what we did is we modified the plans so that we resolved the issues relative to having the required test pits in all locations moved or regraded so that they would not have an issue relative to construction. And that was in lieu of providing HHE 200s in the future. That was what the condition would be. And so I just had to clarify that they need to go back to the response.
It'll be driven by the use, right?
What's that?
It'll be driven by the use, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, whatever.
Yep. So we were hoping that we would have our permit today. Unfortunately, it's been a long time coming. I'm going to ask you, to look at those comments and feel whether you feel it's adequate. We've addressed everything to the satisfaction of the town in relative to our DEP comments. Do want to talk about the testing that we did out there as part of the concerns relative to the prior use out there for target shooting. There were specifically 2 areas that were used. One was to the north side of the pit. It was used for a much shorter time frame than the other one. And it looks like, based upon the aerial photography, that a lot of that area was disturbed after that point. It looks like material was taken out of there. So it didn't look like there would be a lot there. The other area, we had discussions with DEP. We are fortunate that we have a senior construction person in our office who is connected with the Scarborough Gun Club and had some discussions with DEP and our employee relative to the procedures that they do relative to reclamation or dealing with lead from the target areas down there. And so with that, we developed a procedure for testing out there. As part of the concern of the lead, the discussion was that the majority of lead that you would probably encounter would be from the locations of the target to your backstop, where you're going to have the bullets hit and impact something and that you get fragmentation or some of the lead falling off and whatnot. So with that, we looked at the area in that area for the where the target shooting was done. And we used a GIS program to come up with random sampling for that. It was agreed or discussed with DEP that we should do at least 4 samples out there for composite samples. In order to get the material for that, we use this random program to do 10 grab samples, or we use the shovel, for each of those composite samples, put them in clean buckets. Clean buckets to get each composite sample. And when we did this, you can see, probably not very well, but there's pictures there where we went out with survey instrument and said, this is where one of our random samples is. There were blue, red, yellow, and I don't know what the other color was, but so they staked that location, took a sample of that went into the bucket, then did the next one. We had 4 buckets that we got the composite samples of. Once they were filled, they were agitated or mixed, not by putting the shovel in, but we put a cover on it, shook it, rolled it, and once we did that, they went down into it and took a composite sample in a sample jar, and that was a procedure that we had worked out with both MDEP and the laboratory. That material was delivered to the laboratory. Don't know the name. It used to be Catardin Laboratories, but they have been bought out by a bigger engineering company. We took that with a chain of custody paperwork. Our people in-house did this. We didn't allow our clients anywhere around this. And then they did lab tests for parts per million, which is your typical standard that you'll see in the EPA standards. And then we also did TCLP, which is toxicity characteristic leaching procedure. And that's probably the better of the two, or the more concerning of the two, because that tells you the mobility of that stuff when it gets attached to the water and can drain down through the soil and whatnot. We saw that the ppms, or the parts per million, were slightly elevated above what the current standard is. Just happened a year ago about that the EPA actually lowered what they considered their standard for parts per million. So we were a little bit over that. We had one a little more elevated that. And then the TCLPs were elevated enough where it was a concern. So based upon that, we looked at, based upon the conversations that we had with our senior construction guy who's connected with the Scarborough Gun Club, and talking with the DEP, how do we handle it? Well, DEP, if you know anything about waste, if you leave it where it is, you don't have to do anything. Typically, if you're not transporting something off your site, then it's not as big of a concern. What they want you to do is look at typically doing some type of capping or some other mitigation to handle that. What we have looked at it, and we haven't decided which way we're going to go, but there's 2 methods that we can go from that point and do a little bit more. And one is what a lot of the gun clubs do is they go out there and they reclimate the soil. And they do that by taking the soil out, sifting it, getting the lead out of it. And I guess some of the gun clubs make quite a bit of money from the lead they get out. Or you can just strip off that soil and take it out. So we have those 2 alternates that we proposed as part of our mitigation for this with DEP. If we do elect to do the latter one, we will also have to discuss or talk with the hazardous waste division, because once you move that off-site, it becomes an issue that they want to be notified of. You typically have to take it to a treatment place or a place where that's permanently capped off or whatnot. But that only happens, once again, if we decide to take that off in lieu of reclamating and taking the lead out of the soil that we, as the other alternatives. In addition to that, we had put in our proposal that those lots that are in that general area, as part of their development, they will need to have their water tested. And if there is lead in there, like it happens naturally in some places in Maine, I know, we deal with radon, we deal with lead, we deal with sulfur and some other things. When I moved back to Maine, I had to put a pretty elaborate water system in my house. So that would be required as part of the development of those couple lots right there. If the water gets tested, if there's a concern relative to lead not meeting the EPA standard, then there's going to need to be a treatment system installed as part of that. So with that, I think I touched on everything. There might be questions that the board has about prior comments and whatnot and how we addressed them. I don't remember all those, but I'll be more than happy to address those. Did you feel, see that?
Scott, would you like to add anything?
Not really. When the last time we met, a few months ago now, we were pretty much had everything resolved except for the DEP permits, and that's unfortunately where we stand here today. Come in, got on the agenda because we had communications with DEP that said they'd be done in time for this, and clearly they are almost, but not quite. So the board's options are, I don't have any other concerns from engineering, from town staff. We've gone through this all a few times at this point, and I think we're all good to go from our perspective. So the board just has to decide if you're comfortable approving this at this stage in the DEP permitting process, with a condition, of course, that those permits be received. And I had put in the draft language was prior to the start of any work. You could also make that prior to the signing of the subdivision plans, which would be more restrictive. The town, the approval itself is not really final, can't be recorded until we have those in hand. But that's up to the board. And yeah, that's pretty much where we stand, is just on finalizing that DEP permit.
Okay, thank you. Board members. Todd?
Oh, by the way, Katahdin, who I sold to for years, is now called SGS.
Oh, yeah.
See, SGS is a big company, and
Yeah.
so the case is that I had a question relating to, sorry, and I went through our plans, did give Mr. Hastings some fun with the fact of like, I would love these things in Adobe. The case is that, that's okay, it's fine. Actually, but the funny thing is that there are two temporary, most of the temporary turnarounds are internal, across from the single sidewalk. But in the phase 6 section, lot number 8, not lot number 11, have temporary turnarounds, which intersect, of course, with the sidewalks. But those are temporary. So my question, of course, was to make sure I had clarification from you. How temporary or how long are the temporary turnarounds going to be there? If they intersect with the sidewalks, I'm assuming, you wouldn't want to have a gap for a temporary turnaround and then have to, sorry. I just wanted to, from a phasing standpoint, because I was looking at the phasing, the only ones that are on the sidewalk side seem to be in phase 6, which are lots, and only in lots 8 and lots 11.
I don't really think that's really a concern. You don't expect a lot of traffic to be right there at the T turnaround, and it's like a crossing of a roadway, but with no traffic.
Yes.
So,
My concern being, it's like, as long as the sidewalks don't end up, because the sidewalks are only on the outside.
Yep.
All the other temporary turnarounds are on the inside, which
Yeah.
means they're really not that.
it just worked out better on that one. For some
That's
reason.
fine. I just want to make sure, and I didn't know how long temporary was going to be,
Our development's restricted to 5 building permits a year.
Right.
So, we hope that we build 5 a year. So
So phase 6 might be a couple, it might be 4 or 5 years down the road before you get to phase
Yeah.
6.
So we'll have, a T turnaround here, then it gets moved around the loop, and then around the loop to the last one, and then that last one gets, then,
As I said, my only concern was that I didn't want the sidewalk to be,
yeah.
As I acquiesce to only having one sidewalk, my point is to have any issues with that sidewalk in either lots 8 or lot 11 defeats the purpose for the other people in that area, because it's like all of a sudden there's a huge gap.
I mean, as the next phase is done, the turnaround, the previous turnaround's removed,
Yeah.
and that sidewalk will be connected at that.
As I said, I just wanted to make sure, Thank you. That's, Mr. Chair, that was the only question I had. I reviewed everything else
Thank you.
with
Other
the
than this?
phasing.
Carolyn?
I couldn't find on the plans the condition of the street trees that we talked about.
Of the what?
Street trees,
There's on the,
so I
we hope there, I believe there's a note, but you'll see a list up in the corner of the trees that.
C-101.
yeah, so I'm on 101.
Native street tree list.
Yeah, I just, I didn't see the note, and I wanted to add a note. It's so small, it's, even with my glasses, it's hard to see. But what I'm looking for is the note, a minimum of 2 deciduous street trees installed at 1-inch caliper per minimum, or 1-inch caliper minimum per lot.
So, I mean, I don't, this plan isn't exactly the one that you have in front of you that has the rendering on it, but I know this plan has that note, just because I happen to be in front of my face.
Okay,
It does have it right under the native street tree list. It does say there shall be 2 trees planted per lot. See the native tree list for acceptable trees.
okay, I do see that.
Just understand, that's why we're giving flack about the Adobe thing. It's like, I'm blind as a bat sometimes, like if I could zoom in,
I can usually try and get you these.
That's me, I'm kind of usually
Notes on
like
that
this.
this time.
yeah, that's why I was just
fine.
using my phone. It's the only
I
way
was
I could.
looking down here and
Micro
approval,
printing.
not there,
Fair enough.
yeah. But I would like it revised, because I just don't want 2 trees. I would like 2 deciduous street trees. I don't want like a, a little crabapple or something considered a street tree.
Looks like all the ones in that native street tree list are deciduous. I
Okay,
don't know if there's a cherry, if that counts as a little crabapple or not.
yeah,
The rest there is elm, oak, maple on that list.
can we add the 1-inch caliper minimum?
Is the,
That's.
sorry,
pretty
if
good.
the
Diameter.
size is in that list, I don't know, is that, it says 2 to 2.5, is that a caliber measurement? Do you know?
Trying to get it open. There should be in the,
That should be.
there's a specification on the side of what you're typically putting in.
So I believe that size column is the 2 to 2.5 inch caliber.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, fine. I mean, that's more expensive, but it's fine. Thank you. And then I just had one other question.
Okay.
Going back to the entrance, I know we talked at length, so I don't want to beat a dead horse about the street light across the street down a teeny bit. But my question is, what is the illumination level that is, especially on the far corner of that entrance? Does it, I'm just really concerned about visibility there.
Well,
Being able to
typically,
see where you turn, so you're not turning into a ditch.
typically you want to have, you'll notice when you go down a road, when you come to an intersection, there's a light, and by that, you know that there's an intersection there. We talked to DEP, we actually had another pole shown and whatnot, and they said no.
I know they said
The pole you
no.
can have will be directly across from the pole, and it's gonna be on your property. So it will be even farther away than the one that we're proposing to put the light on.
Well, I just want to know what the illumination level is in that corner.
But the Public Works Director just mentioned to me that CMP is going through and fixing all the poles on that road in the near future. So we don't even have a firm pole location for what that would be. And it's gonna depend on CMP. Like, we don't get much of any
CMP
say
and
in
DOT.
where things go.
Well, there's underground utilities right there. Can't there just be a small little street light that they put in at that?
You would have to put it in the property,
Yeah.
which is away from the roadway is where you want it. You want the limitation out on the main roadway at the intersection. And, you know, I don't know if it's gonna do you any good to have it in, off the right of way versus the pole that's out there that's in the right of way.
Well, is there any kind of standard for visibility for that?
Mr. McSorley, I think you're gonna be asked to step away from Mr.
John Cross, Public Works. CMP actually called me last week, referenced this, because they wanted to reach out to the property owner. They wanted to know where the driveway entrance was gonna be, and I explained it's through MDOT, and that determination type of deal in the plans, once they're finally approved, that they could reach out, because they want to make sure that the pole is not in way of the driveway opening. So I think there's some willingness to work together from what I talked with them about that, but again, it's in CMP's right away. If you put it out in the end, it's not the town right away that you're putting it into. I mean, when I say MDOT right away, that CMP is putting it in, not the town right away, because that is not in a compact area. So we don't have control of where the poles can be in that location.
Without knowing what the light is, can you do illumination study? You can't without knowing exactly what the light is they're gonna put up, right?
You can do it based upon the existing pole, but it's not gonna change, you know,
You
you're gonna
know
have a
what the light
standard
is.
fixture on that pole. We're not gonna be able to move the pole. In right where that pole is where the line crosses the roadway. So, you know, it'd be great if we could put another pole on that line, but because it's crossing, it would end up in the middle of the pavement.
That's okay.
So when they put up a street light, we have a system called Ubiqua, so I'm able to control the illumination from my desk and office type of deal through that. So they usually have to work with one of the contractors that we use to put it up, and we provide them what's called the node that allows us to do that from a remote location for that.
I'm just thinking you have cars going 60 miles an hour on that stretch. And so if you can't really see where you're turning in or out.
I just don't think that CMP or MDOT will want extra poles by putting one on the corner that's in there right away. That's my opinion of that. They're gonna limit it to what CMP poles are already there and then be in the placement. I don't think that they want extra stuff within there right away. If you're looking for just a pole for the light.
No, I'm just looking for an illumination level that's adequate for people to travel safely. That's what I'm looking for.
Sorry, Mr. McSorley, the problem is that based on sheet 101, or, sheet 101 at the end of this thing, your property line is so far off. If we went to like a property pole, it's not going to help because it's way back. It looks like about 150 feet off the road, or 100 feet or 50 feet off the road. It's not going to help with the illumination because it'll be so far in off the 114, Richfield as we call it.
I didn't think it was that far away.
Don't know,
Not that far, but it's far enough that a pole off.
Be about
the property
35,
would
40
not
feet off.
provide a lot of illumination to the roadway.
I couldn't, sorry, as I said, it looked like 50 feet, but I couldn't zoom in enough with something like, as I said, I couldn't use Adobe or something to like fast forward that little line to give me a distance.
We can provide the town with a graphic of what limitation you're gonna get. But once again, we're not gonna be able to put another pole closer to that intersection in the DOT right away. We had one that we put right there on the plans, right at the corner. And they said, no. They said, the only pole you can do is directly across, and it's gonna be on your property. And that would be farther away from the intersection.
Are you satisfied with that?
Sorry, Mr. McSorley again.
I don't have much choice because it's MDOT right away, so I can't, force the issue. It's there right away to be able to control where they want that.
No, but as they said, they would work with us.
Well, that's what I'm saying. CMP was obviously wanted to make sure that they weren't in the middle of their entrance because they're trying to finalize. They're supposed to be starting within a couple of weeks of going up and cutting this project and coming down through. I mean, they're willing to work with us, but like I said, I can't control and say this is where we want it. We can suggest it, but I can't.
Well, I'm just looking for a suggestion.
CMP hasn't seen these plans.
Just looking for like a recognition.
They were
that
looking
this
for,
is-
once it's finally approved, to be able to do that.
At least the entrance won't change because DOT's got that tied down.
Yeah.
We will reach out to CMP and let them know we would like on their pole replacement, put it closer to the intersection. We can do that, but we have no control.
Stretch those wires.
Yes, please, Mr. McSorley.
No, I think we can reach out to the coordinator at CMP and say, hey, if you're replacing this pole, can you lengthen this run to put it exactly opposite of the driveway? They may not.
Still get that diagonal crossing.
What's that?
They can still get their diagonal crossing.
Yeah, that's the thing that, once again, from that pole is where they cut across the roadway. So we will reach out to them. We have no problem with that. And we will ask them to provide us information relative to the limitation. We can give that to the town, but once again, we're stuck by what they do.
What we're talking about, CMP. The detail on C503. And I know that the transformer pads aren't sacred because basically, until you take out a contract with CMP, they're not gonna sit down and negotiate that with you. Should you add something to that effect? They're usually, 10 by 10 or 15 by 15? There's no dimension of a typical easement on that detail.
Depends on the phase. It's just,
Yeah.
single
It's
phase or
Single
smaller,
phase,
like
3
7
phase,
by
whatever,
7.
yeah.
505?
3. 503, left-hand side of
Okay,
the
yep,
page.
I got it.
You've got the dimensional between the spectrum and telephone and the transformer itself, but there's no general dimension of an easement. Rather than put them on each individual lot and then have them change in the future, just show a typical.
Yeah, we have a standard easement along all the right-of-ways. We can modify the plan for that. It's not a big deal.
On the right-of-ways you have them? Did I miss it? I see the transformer, but I don't see any easement. Doesn't matter. I think it just needs to be addressed.
Yeah, marking on my plan right now.
And then on all of the sheets, C101 through 10 whatever, it looks like somebody shut the driveway culverts off when they printed them out. We got lovely details and calls for riprap and everything else, but no culverts. And I would think we'd want to have a chart somewhere that says it's got to be a 12, 15, 18, whatever size it is, so the contractor gets the appropriate size culvert in. Even if the driveway shifts 5 or 6 feet, they can adjust the grades to meet the ditch. Because you've got some 18-inch cross culverts there. I don't know if you need any 18-inch driveway
I
culverts or
think
not.
the culvert is carried under the typical detail for the driveways. We haven't shown them on the plan, but it's on.
Okay, so you just didn't show them on the plan, you just show the grading?
Yeah, just show the grading, but there's a typical for the driveways.
They're all the same size culvert?
Yep. On sheet 503.
18-inch diameter.
Yes, Mr. McSorley, you've actually moved to 2 bags. Sorry, I had to move on to a second bag of, pillow plans. So I'm having fun with the fact of some of the earlier plans had it, but this one, yeah.
To that end, thank you for providing 11 by 17 sheets. If
Yes.
full size, they're much easier.
Thank you. It's a little bit easier to try to also haul them.
So I guess we don't have to worry about that, if they're all the same size.
Chair, I'd like to go back to the lead for just a moment. I have a couple questions.
Absolutely.
I'm curious about the methodology that you used to test the ground, if it was DEP approved or just.
Yeah, we worked with them. Specifically, there's a gentleman, Eric Hamlin. We had a lot of conversations with him. He actually came up with the 10 grab samples or 10 samples per bucket, the mixing and the grab on each one.
Okay.
We have an email that says that.
You referenced the elevated levels. Is that documented someplace?
Yeah, there's a submission that we did to MDEP back that showed what the parts per million. Once again, I don't have them off the top of my head. There was one below, there were two just a little bit elevated, one that was slightly higher than what the new EPA standard is. Once again, EPA last January reduced their recommendation for parts per million for areas where children and whatnot would be in.
So those levels are above that threshold?
Correct. And then the bigger thing is, once again, the TCLP, which is, they do a leachate procedure to see the ability for that to migrate. And so that testing result was part of what we submitted back to DEP as part of the mitigation that we proposed, which included, either, taking, removing lead on site, or just removing the soil outright, taking it to a waste site. And then the fact that all the lots within that area need to be, when they have their water test, be tested for lead. If there's a lead component that exceeds the EPA standard, then they need to treat for that lead. Part of
The homeowners.
Well, part of the development.
How deep were the sample? How deep did you guys dig for those samples?
It's just great surface. And that was an interesting part, as part of the conversation we had, was relative to how far that you go down. And when you're looking at that, the waste lead from the target over to where your embankment is usually surface or pretty close to the surface. And based upon that, we made a recommendation of what the depth of that excavation would need to be, either if we're reclamating the lead or taking the soil straight out. And the interesting thing is also the distance that you would intend or see that the bullet would go into the bank. I figure that it could go in like 30 feet or so. It doesn't. And it really depends upon whether, well, I'm not a gun person, so the type of ammo that it is, whether it's 6 to 9 inches or about 12 inches that it goes into the bag. So what we've done is we've said, you need to go and you need to take and excavate this much of the bag on the backside, and then you have to sample that face. And if any shot is detected, you got to take another sliver.
Shot or lead?
Shot or lead, yeah. Whatever's the evidence.
Leaching, I'm sorry, leaching. Lead, any leaching from that lead?
No, any solid.
Solid lead?
Yeah, any solid particulate that you find. If you find anything, take another sliver. It's kind of like if you've had a Mohs procedure for cancer. They go in, they take a layer off, they look at it, take another layer, same thing.
Did you guys entertain the idea of bringing in a third party to test that soil prior to? Do you entertain using a third party to do any testing on the site for that?
Did we entertain doing that? No. We're professionals. We do sampling of other types of projects and whatnot. We've been doing it for years. We have a chain of custody report that we have to fill out as part of that. We have liability as part of that. There's, you know, somebody going out and sampling, you know, it's going to be the same whether it's this firm or that firm. Really comes down to the chain of custody and making sure that that is provided to the testing company, and then they do what they need to do. And, you know, it was pretty specific relative to the procedure. Like when we put the shovel on the ground, took a sample, it got clean before we did another one. Put that in the bucket, clean it, another one, clean it, do another one. Relative to the mixing, we only, I was pretty cheap, so I only bought one top. So we put the top on there, mixed the thing. Once we took that top off, we cleaned that top before we put it on the other one. Now, these were some of the procedures that we talked about with both the testing company and DEP.
And you have two options now to take care of that property, given that you're gonna have kids. I mean, this looks like
Yeah.
you're gonna have families out there.
My client is, you know, they both have young ones, and they're very concerned that they, you know, develop a project that's good for single family type individuals and whatnot. So we've discussed that, and, you know, and we could, you know, clean it out and then put some type of restrictive, or there's some other organic layers you can get that would neutralize the lead that might be there. But I talked with them and they agreed that if there's anything left over, we got to test the water. And if there's something wrong with the water sample, then at that point, a system will need to be put in to address lead. You know,
Surrounding grounds as well, probably too, right?
What's that?
The surrounding grounds is probably the same, as you disturb the land.
In that general area, yeah. Yeah. There were several lots that we in all of the lots, all their wells, they're going to be doing testing. Every single one will get lead as part. I do my house every couple of years and redo it to make sure that, you know, my treatment system doesn't need to be replaced or refurbished or whatnot. It's be the same thing. So.
Andrew?
Yeah, I'd be in favor of tabling it for the permit.
Comment, Chair. Is any of that information related to lead going to be, you know, provided to the prospective home buyers? You know, if there is a treatment system in place, I'm assuming that there would be, you know, maintenance fees and some other requirements that those home buyers might want to be aware of.
The lots indicated, yes. Yes, because we put it as a condition to put in the DEP permit that these lots need to address this when they go to do the sample for the lot. So yes.
So I understand, you know, when I purchased my home, I didn't look at the original subdivision plans and such, but would it be somehow that information translated through the realtor or some other party to make the prospective buyer aware that the potential contamination for hazardous?
I don't think that's an issue. Yeah, we can. It's going to be part of the permit. We can make it pretty obvious to those lots that we've indicated.
Okay.
Should we open it up to the public, or does the board get any further questions?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I mean, any realtor should have that disclosed.
Do you guys have anything, Charlie has asked anything else on the board before we open to public comment?
Just one comment on the other water testing information provided. I know it's not from this, it's from an abutting parcel. Did appear to fail for E. coli. So
Typical, you have to chlorinate and treat it.
yes, yeah, I just hopefully that whoever's drinking that water is aware of it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's already been done, right? Yeah.
Okay,
That was it.
thank you. Motion open to the public?
Sorry, in the case that I make a motion to open for public comment?
Second.
Moving and second, open it up for public comment. Discussion by the board.
As we
Seeing
said, just
none,
come to.
Those in favor?
Hi, folks. I'm Russell Taylor. I apologize. My voice is not great today, but I apologize coming to the party kind of late. This is the first time I've spoken to this, but the property that we're talking about here was actually very briefly up for sale. And I need some clarification. And the first paragraph, the description of the property was an exceptional development opportunity minutes from Sebago Lake. This 99-acre parcel gravel pit approved for a 30-lot subdivision. So is this approved or not approved?
Not.
Okay.
In the process of.
All right, so I'm fact-finding here, so I just want to make sure that is not approved. Okay. Scott, could you put up the EPA's best management practices for lead at outdoor shooting ranges? Please do. There's been, I've been following this for 15 years. I live near the pit. There's been a lot of misinformation, especially about lead. We talk about lead contamination in soil and lead contamination in the water. So I think we should look at what the EPA standards are, okay? And this is really important. So once he gets this up, you can follow along. There it is. I would highly suggest if you're approving any type of subdivision that you read this document. Okay, it's extremely important about lead in the soil. Scott, could you please, Mr. Hastings, could you please go down to 1.2 legal requirements and court rulings? I know you can't see that, but I will try to read this to you. Yes, 1.2. Yes, right there is perfect. Thank you. I'm going to be starting with the paragraph in the first column at the very bottom. It says citizens. Okay. Citizen groups have been a driving force behind the most legal actions taken against outdoor ranges. These groups have sued range owners, operators under the federal environmental laws. Two of the EPA's most comprehensive environmental laws, the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, the RCRA, and the Clean Water Act, CWA, specifically provide citizens with the right to sue in cases in which the environment and human health is threatened. These citizen suits have been highly effective in changing the ways ranges operate, even when out-of-court settlements have been reached. I would like you to please go to 1.21, please, which is, yeah, right at the top of the page there. The RCA provides the framework for nation's solid and hazardous waste management program. Under the RCRA, EPA developed a cradle-to-grave system to ensure the protection of human health and the environment when generating, transporting, storing, treating, and disposing of hazardous waste. The RCRA potentially applies to many phases of range operation because lead bullet shots, if abandoned, may be a solid and/or hazardous waste and may present an actual or potential imminent and substantial endangerment. I'd like to continue on, please, to paragraph 3, I believe on page, I don't have the page number. Continue down, please. Right there, the court. Right there, right there. Yep. Second column, number 3, it says the court. The court concluded that lead shot and clay targets meet statutory definition of solid waste because these materials were discarded, abandoned, and left to accumulate long after they have served their intended purpose. Further, the court concluded that based upon toxicity testing and evidence of lead contamination, that lead shot was a hazardous waste subject to RCRA. The important point to consider here is that if lead shot and clay target debris are discarded, abandoned, these materials are considered a solid waste as defined in the statute, and the facility may be subject to governmental or citizen suits. If, on the other hand, the discharged lead shot is recovered or reclaimed on a regular basis, no statutory solid waste or hazardous waste would be present and imminent hazardous suits would be avoided. Thus, the Remington Arms case is an important legal precedent. Even though regulations have not been issued regarding gun club operations, the environmental protection gun clubs are still at risk of legal action under the RCRA if they fail to routinely recover and reclaim lead and do not take steps to minimize lead release or mitigation, or if they abandon lead in berms. That's pretty clear. Gun clubs where there is shooting in water, wetlands, rivers, creeks, or other sensitive environments like a vernal pool have the highest degree of litigation risk. I'd like to continue to go down, please, more, Scott. How the lead shot regulated under RCA, please. Yes, right there, good, right, stop there. Lead shot is considered a hazardous waste subject to the RCRA at the time it is not considered hazardous waste subject to RCA at the time it is discharged from a firearm because it is used for its intended purpose. That's you shoot a gun, it comes out at velocity speed. As such, shooting lead shot or bullets is not regulated, nor is the RCA permit required in an operation of a shooting range, However, spent lead shot or bullets left in the environment is subject to a broader definition of solid waste written by the Congress and is used in section 7002 and 703 of the RCA statute. I'd like to go across where it says sections, the second column, it says section 7002. Section 702 and 773 of the RCA statute allow EPA, states, or citizens to use civil lawsuits, compel cleanup, and other action for solid waste, spent lead shot, posing actual or potential imminent and substantial endangerment. Such actions can be sought whether the range is in operation or closed and is solely based on determination that harm is being posed or may be posed by the range to public health and or to the environment. So 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, whatever. Since the risk of lead migrating increases with time, making ranges that have not removed lead, 15 years, more likely candidates for government action or citizen lawsuits under the RCRA section. 7002, 703, ranges are advised to maintain a schedule of regular lead removal, which I don't think there is any. With time, 15 years, lead in the soil can become less desirable to reclaimers and smelters, thereby potentially reducing or eliminating financial returns from lead removal. Moreover, such soil may be subject to more expensive treatment to separate the lead for recycling. Continue down to the Clean Water Act form, please, Mr. Hastings. Okay, stop right there. Yeah, thank you. The goal of the Clean Water Act, CWA, is to restore and maintain the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of the nation's waters. The most common allegation against ranges by the EPA and citizen groups is that they violate the CWA if they do not have permits that allow spent ammunition to be discharged into water. The CWA prohibits the discharge of any pollutant by any person in the waters of the United States without a National Pollution Discharge and Elimination NPDES permit. There have been 2 court cases that apply to this provisions in the CWA to civilian shooting ranges. And we go right across from there is based, and I will continue reading that. Based on the court's decision in the New York Athletic Club case, any range whose shot, bullets, or target debris entered the waters of the United States could be subject to permitting requirements as well as governmental or citizen suits. Waters in the United States are navigable waters of the United States, are waters in the United States which including territorial seas that include any body of water that has any connection to or impact on interstate waters or commerce. The waters may include lakes, ponds, rivers, streams, wetlands, even guts that frequently dry. Meaning you could have a vernal pool that dries up. You wouldn't know it in August if you shot on the ground. That's considered under the CWA. Okay, which may not be obvious to range owners and operators, right? Because it's dried up. These ranges may be required to remediate contaminated sediments and soils, which could be both difficult and expensive, and to cease operations over waters and wetlands. It is essential that these ranges change the direction of shooting to avoid shooting over or into wetlands or other navigable waters of the United States and initiate lead removal and recycle activities where feasible. In addition, these ranges can cause a substantial impact to wildlife and wetlands, which range owners, operators may be required to restore under the federal laws. Lead shot entering a water bottle substantially increases the potential risk of contaminating surface and groundwater, which in turn threatens human health and environment. Finally, as New York Athletic Club, Remington Arms, and similar cases show, neighbors have the most leverage when range activities affect wetlands and waterways. I want to read that one more time because I don't think that's getting through. Neighbors have the most leverage when range activities affects wetlands and waterways. Scott, please go to 1.3. Yeah, clean on 1.
Mr. Chair, I have a question because we're dancing here. Mr. Hastings, is the Mayetta gravel pit a range?
Wait a second.
No, because my point being is, I've listened to this stuff. Don't get me wrong. Everybody knows Mayetta gravel pit was, they were shooting there. But the Mayetta gravel pit was never a range. These rules we're talking about are all about ranges.
Briefly, illegally operated as.
That's what I'm saying. When was it legally operated as a range?
Legally, never.
Okay. So
legally.
But I'm sorry, you understand the Pine Tree Estates, they're, at the end of Spear Road, I've picked up 3 bags worth of 5.56 shell casings. There's no range down at the end of my road, but people shoot down there all the damn time. That's why I have my water tested regularly. But Mayetta gravel pit See, my worry is, we start this road is the gravel pit has shooting, and I strongly want to deal with the environmental impact. At the same time, the gravel pit is now being held to a standard, which is, it's not a range. It was illegally used as a range, but illegally using it as a range doesn't expose us to the Remington laws. My point being is, I love hearing you talk, but the reality is, if the Mayetta gravel pit was a range legally, or if Cumberland County Sheriff had filed paperwork to use the place for testing or usage, but at no time was the Mayetta gravel pit, which was why I'm worried. I'm concerned that every gravel pit, every freaking place in this, there's 20 places I can tell you in this town, including the end of my road, which are used illegally. You're exposing us to the concept of, yes, but they're not ranges. The Mayetta gravel pit is a gravel pit. And it's a shame that it was used illegally. It was a shame it was used, and we're trying to mitigate it in this situation, but it's not a range. My worry is we keep dancing on this whole thing for another hour. Don't get me wrong, I love my pillow, but the reality is that there's a point where if the Mayetta gravel pit was ever legally, if the Cumberland County Sheriff's said, okay, we're gonna use it for this, or it was ever designated as a range, then he's got a point. We're gonna keep dancing on this thing for the next 20 minutes or so. I'm starting
to hear him continue.
I get it, but
there is lead in the soil.
And I'm not.
And that's the point.
Yeah,
It's
but I'm
not
saying, but it's
the
not.
definition if it's a gun range or not a gun range.
It is, because.
If there's a discharge of lead on the ground.
But the thing is, keep saying the word range over and over again, Patrick, is my worry is, it's the Mayetta gravel pit. If he wants to talk about the environmental impact of lead and ground, great. But keeping on saying the word range over and over again is, anybody who, I hate to say this, the guys who just were here were blasting. We're setting ourselves up for the fact of like, what the hell's gonna happen, with every freaking pit in this town.
Yeah.
That's my point is,
exactly.
But it's not a range. For the love of God, stop saying the word range, because it's not a range. The Mayetta gravel pit was never a legal range. It was used illegally, but it's not a range. Everything you're talking about is great for the environmental standpoint, except it's not a range. So if you want to talk about the environmental impact of lead per the fact of what happens at ranges, great. But the problem is the Mayetta gravel pit was never a legal range.
Call it an illegal range then. I mean,
But my point is, he keeps saying the word range like.
Call it an illegal range.
That's fine, but he keeps saying the word range and you talking to us about laws.
Okay, so I think we understand now the status of what the pit was and was not.
Right.
I think the member of the public would like to make a presentation about the presence of lead, which we have now tested for and see is there. And we can finish that presentation and go from there.
I think this would help. Go to planning board meeting minutes 7/6, be July 6, 2015, please.
I do not have that prepared.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That was not provided to
I
me.
will read this. This was at a plan renewal meeting. This is Mr. Mayetta speaking. Mr. Mayetta said that people talk about things and he feels that what Mr. Taylor, me, was speaking about was an exaggeration about a commercial use of what happened. He says he allows people from his family to shoot. The sheriff's department shoots there, and he will allow people to continue to shoot there, whether he has the pit or not. So you wanted sheriff, there you got it.
No, what I'm saying, Mr. Taylor, is, sure, I understand it, but there was no legal contract between Mayetta and the Cumberland County Sheriff. There's no paperwork. Just because it was said at a meeting doesn't naturally, in a sense, make it a range.
No.
I get it.
I am reading verbatim what the EPA law says.
Yeah, that's
but
great for ranges. Not with Mr. Then go sue Mr. Mayetta, Mr. Taylor. But my point is that Mayetta, that's what I'm saying, is the gravel pit was never a legal range. It was used illegally. Doesn't matter if the owner just says, I let people do it. The point is that, like, that would be saying that I'm in trouble because the fact is that people shoot on the back end of my property because it abuts common area.
The problem with that logic is I'm not trying to put a 30-home development in contaminated hazardous waste that's on site right now. Okay, I'm not trying to do that. You have to guarantee the public safety for lead for the next 100 years. Lead's an element, it doesn't break down. As he explained, it gets into the water system. Once it gets into the groundwater, it can go deeper than that, okay? So this is why it's so important to understand. Now, does anybody have any evidence of what was shot in the pit? I think this will help clear some things up. I'm going to show you some pictures of the pit and what was in here, because some of these guns will shoot over a mile. This is the shoot house right here. You can see that there's pictures here. Here's a picture here of a long-range gun. This is from Weaponcraft. They operated in the pit illegally because the town would not close them down for 6 months. Some of those guns classes were 500 rounds every day, okay? 500 rounds. How much, we're not talking about so much about shooting the gun, as how much lead is accumulating in the pit, okay? Scott and I sat down with Scott and I said, how much lead, here's a class, okay? This is a typical class, the pit here. They were all, took a class, 500 rounds, all right? There's 22 people here. That's 11,000 shots that went off in one day. 11,000. How much lead went into the berm that day? Did it all go into the berm? Okay, how do you know it went into the berm? Did they spread people around on the northern side? Okay, you don't know. But you as planning board, you have to guarantee that there's no other lead on the property. How do you know?
Wait a minute. The planning board doesn't have to guarantee that. The landowner has to guarantee
The landowner does.
But
and we don't have jurisdiction over this. EPA, DEP have jurisdiction over this.
But you're giving approval, saying that this is a safe site.
We don't know that. We haven't done it yet.
Okay, all right. Well, this property was up for sale and I was confused. It said it was approved and now it's not approved. Okay, I get that. I'd like to show you this picture here. And it's very, this is important because there's other locations that were shot in the pit, all right? You look where that little arrow is. Yeah, I know you don't want to look at that. That's
No, I don't need to see pictures of gun classes that were done illegally.
well, you do because it.
No, Mr. Taylor, I don't. Because the point is that the key word there is illegal, and the problem you have with this whole concept is.
I'm just gonna stop you right here. Going by Charlie's speech that he reads at the beginning of every meeting, this is not a back and forth argument to be had here. Let's hear the presentation so we can close the public hearing and we can move forward.
Okay.
So let's hear what he has to say.
I didn't know how long Mr. Taylor was gonna speak.
And I think the board has abilities to place limits on the amount of time someone takes to speak if the board so chooses.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. I would like to read you, I think there's a conflict of interest. I think Mr. Sheehan brought this up. We have Sebago Techniques working with the DEP, okay? And I have a copy of that report, and I just want to read you the first sentence. Based upon coordination with the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, it was agreed to sample an area that previously had been used intermittently for firing recreational weapons. I disagree with intermittently, and I disagree with recreational weapons, as you can see on some of these pictures. Those guns go long range, okay? They had classes in there for some pretty heavy weapons that can shoot for over a mile. I think there's lead in the pit all over the place. I'd like to read you just one quote from Councilor Nesbitt, who was on the town council. And this is from public record. This is from the town council minutes from January 13th, 2015. Councilor Nesbitt says that this is overreaching. We do not have an issue. We do have an issue with the pit on 114. He's referring to the Maeda pit. He said he went to the pit to see the area. He said he saw evidence of shooting that has taken place, and it appears that some shooting is in the direction of the ATV trail. this is important. He said that there is no dedicated shooting area. People just go in and shoot wherever they want. Okay, now that just opens it up. They just took the berm, and the picture that they used in their presentation is actually from 2018. It's not a current picture. And so I don't know why they're using that. So that's inaccurate, okay? So, yeah, you could say, you know, there's no lead there, and let's just put 30 homes in there. But you already have water testing in one area, and that's the area you actually tested. So you've got to go around and test the rest of the pit. You got to test the berms on the north side. Recreational shooters shot there all the time. Then also you gave a gravel extraction permit to a guy, and he's got shooting inside. So did any of that material have lead bullets in it? It was probably contaminated when it went off site. I don't know. Okay, there's a lot of questions here, but at least I read through some of the EPA document. You have a good understanding that lead is a hazardous waste under the RCRA, and you're exposed to civil suits. Yes, the owner is exposed to civil suits. Okay, I guess I'm done. So you can get on with your business if that's so important.
No, there's other people who want to speak publicly, so.
Can I have the pictures back, please?
Pass them down. There's some down here.
Thank you. I'll let you decide what you want to do. But you're not going to leave, because every time we came to the town, we got, it's their Second Amendment right to shoot. We never got anything about, it's the lead contamination. This is what the EPA said. We never got any of that. And so we are not, as abutters and people around the pit, going to put up with hazardous waste on site that is leaching down, and they're going to need water testing. We're not going to do that, okay? That's not going to happen. Nobody wants to live in a hazardous waste site or near one. Thank you for your time.
Next. Anybody else?
Anthony Folsom? Good with that? Okay, thanks.
I know who you are, Tony.
The aquifers in Standish, there's three main ones, one down by the Otter Ponds, the one that's down between the Boundary Road and the railroad tracks, and the one by Pine Tree Estates. The one that's between the Boundary Road and the railroad tracks was the second biggest one. The SD Warrens came back in the 80s or 90s and started spreading sludge everywhere. My mother was a town council member, fought it for a year, and ended up winning because the sludge was getting into the aquifer, which runs from between the Boundary Road and the railroad tracks, right down to 114, right into Sebago Lake. So Portland Water District is the one that finally came on board with her and got that project shut down, saying the contamination of the aquifer that is in line to the lake is going right through my other pit. So whatever contamination is in the pit is headed towards Sebago Lake. So the more we go in there and disturb the land, the more it's going to affect the water that's going into Sebago Lake. So what Mr. Taylor just brought up for many things about how contaminated that land could be, I think this needs to be looked at a lot more than it has been. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Brandon Watson, it's Richville Road, kind of across the street from the property. I want to go back to the fact that this is a rural area. I think a better reclamation for an old pit would just let it stay rural, instead of putting houses in there that are gonna displace wildlife, etc. Not to mention the fact, if you do a quick realtor.com or Zillow search currently, there's 25 houses for sale in Standish that have been on the market for an average of 123 days, so 4 months. The average price of those houses are $600,000. that doesn't count all the lots that are still for sale or still being developed. You know, Woodbury Heights, Caley Drive, the condos, the stuff that's gonna go behind Papa's Ice Cream. Do we need more housing in Standish with all those housings already available, plus the ones that are already coming in? Do we need more housing that's probably gonna be upwards of $600,000 in coming into our town? So let's think about affordability, and let's just keep Standish green instead of rooftops everywhere. Simple, you've heard it all before. I do know there's lots of other shooting areas, but I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I'll leave that one alone for now. So thank you, guys.
Hey guys, I'm Matt Jones. I'm from Farmhouse LLC. There's a bunch of things said. You know, as far as as far as needing more homes in Standish, you know, they have a limit in this zone where we can only build 5 houses a year. I think if it gets to a point where these houses don't sell, or we're not serving a purpose, or we're not providing houses to people that needs it, then it's something that's not going to continue. In regards to the lead issue, you know, the previous owner, from what we know, privately allowed a few people to come in and shoot here. It was not a public range. You know, I'm not trying to dismiss or downplay any of the concerns or the issues about the lead. You know, it's something that we're completely aware of. I have a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science. You know, I studied natural water systems. I studied soils. When we built this house at the entrance of the pit, I voluntarily took samples from the well. I took them to Katahdin. This was all my own cost. I got the water tested. I forget what it was. We had one element that was high in the water test, and this is something that didn't need to be foreclosed to the buyers. I did this, you know, voluntarily. I provided the results. We had one element that was high, and I gave them a credit for a filtration system to get that element out. So like Rob was saying, we worked with DEP, and we have these two paths for remediation, and I fully intend, you know, to do everything we can to remediate these, you know, remediate the lead as best we can. And as a last effort, we're going to do the same thing that we did on that house. We're going to take water samples after all these houses are done, and we're going to be very transparent about what's in them. You know, we don't want to be responsible for building houses where there's water that's bad for people. I didn't choose to go to school for environmental science because it's something that I don't care about. I just wanted to say that it's something that we care about just as much as everybody else. And that's all.
The process to screen the lead, you use the same system that Scarborough Fish and Game does?
Yeah, we would do the same general thing, hire the similar contractor that does it over there.
Stick with them.
That's why we talked to them, because we had an issue to deal with it. We dealt with DEP. We talked to somebody who deals with this on a regular basis. I looked at a lot of the publications that are online too. That particular document, that's of course best manager of hackers for a commercial shooting range and whatnot. And a lot of that's in that document is what the gun club does at Scarborough. You know, they have a designed area that's for shooting and whatnot. And they do the reclamation on a regular basis. I can't remember what it is, but like I said, they actually get money back for the lead that they recover. And that's for a commercial shooting range. That's the best management practice. This was never a commercial shooting range. This was people going out in the pit and shooting. And unfortunately, it's an item that we needed to deal with. and we talked to DEP. We talked to the people who know about guns, and what happens when you fire them. You know, this is where you're gonna find your lead. You're gonna find it here, from here to here. This is how far the shot's gonna go in, even if it's a high-powered rifle. Like I said, I'm not a gun guy. I thought it would go in like 30 feet. It will not go in 30 feet. So, you know, relative to people shooting in every which direction, you know, hunters shoot everywhere, man. There's lead everywhere.
Motion to close the public hearing?
You're not public, Mr. Excellent. I second the motion.
Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
We didn't think anyone was coming behind you.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
When did you do the testing?
We had discussions with DEP in mid-November, and right after that, before the snowfall, we went out there and did the testing.
So the ground wasn't frozen at that point?
No, it wasn't frozen at that time.
And then is the property still up for sale? Because he was saying that he's gonna be the owner of this, but also it was just put up for sale. So are we dealing with a new owner potentially, or?
They own the property right now.
Yeah.
They are going through the permit process right now.
Yeah.
They were looking at options. They temporarily put it up online. I don't believe it's online currently. They're looking to move forward.
So, okay.
Excuse me, could you clear, is it online for, it was online for sale?
They put it up.
Sorry. Excuse me, I just wanted to understand what you.
Yeah, so it was briefly listed for a little bit, and the goal for doing that was to create conversation, potentially attract excavation companies. That was the only purpose. We wanted to potentially attract other companies that were interested in excavating.
But the listing didn't say that. It said it was approved for houses.
But it was
So.
it was trying to attract partnerships for people that have site work companies.
But then you wouldn't be personally responsible for the testing of the water and the soil. I'm saying that would be broken if you sold it, right?
Yeah, we would, because we would still be owners.
You would still be owners because you were looking to lease like the land, basically?
No, we were just trying to attract people that were interested in building, and partnering in the project with us.
Like another investor.
And another investor or another site work company.
One of the things that we deal with a lot in our business is once something hits the papers or the planning board agendas and whatnot, we're dealing with people who are interested in doing that work on that project. And that's kind of what he is alluding to, as a way of generating people who would come into the project, whether it's realtors or construction company. They put it out there for sale to say, hey, this is a project that's out there. It's not the way I typically would have done it, but we get calls all the time relative to things that happen on the planning board that people want to come in, whether they're excavators or electricians and whatnot.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Questions? All right. Let's see where we go from here, if we go. It appears that this is the only big issue, the lead remediation, is that the right term? Whatever's gonna happen with that.
Andrew made a motion. Was it a motion or just he was in favor of it?
Yeah, I was just stating I was in favor of it. If we're ready to make a motion, I'd make the motion to table it for the necessary permits and everything to be in place for final approval. We've heard that they need to do stuff. It's not a cut and dry permit, sounds like, so.
There were minor items that needed to be addressed. The permit had gone up to the supervisor level, shared that information with Scott. It clearly said in that email that it came back from the supervisor with these 5 issues. Those are the issues that I addressed earlier in the meeting. I'll be more than happy to bring those up again. They were pretty minor.
I'm motioning to table the application.
I'll second it.
Got a motion, table, and seconded. Further discussion by the board?
Sorry, shame on the town council 10 years ago for not biting the bullet and dealing with this issue. And the pit was used for a lot more serious shooting than plinking and other things. At the same time, I would love to see a lead remediation plan and have a little bit more details and have the MD, have them have the paperwork in order. I know it's a real imposition, but I think we need to have more things laid out, before we move it forward.
It will be part of the DEP approval.
Jurisdiction for the lead removal is in DEP's hands. With the approval of their permit, that would cover what their expectations are for any lead remediation. All the testing and methods that were laid out to us tonight by the applicant are part of what they are submitting to DEP, and DEP will exercise their jurisdiction over the pit and any lead contamination issues that they feel are needed to be addressed, which it would appear they would like them to do remediation.
In your opinion, is it similar to mine that really it's out of our jurisdiction? It's strict, the environmental, if you will, the contaminants from the lead fall under DEP and EPA.
And our jurisdiction is that they need DEP approval, and DEP is the one who's going to do the details on what that looks like in terms of lead. They're the experts in that more than we are. If they say it's okay, then that's the jurisdiction for me.
There's really nothing in our ordinance specific to that.
The first section of the subdivision review criteria is pollution. So I think we do have that jurisdiction.
Just to make sure it's happening, but we don't know, we don't have the expertise ourselves to do it, right?
That the project will cause pollution, right?
Yeah, we could
Cause pollution, we're dealing with.
The comment
testing
made by the public regarding pollution to the aquifer that's going into Sebago Lake is really troubling to me. And so I definitely want to, just think about this a little bit more. If this is a hazardous waste site that is leaching lead contamination into a public drinking source for the greater Portland area, that's really concerning. So I don't know how we address that, but.
Well, I think that would be very concerning for DEP as well. So, I mean, there's pits all over the state where there have been significant shooting there. And a lot of them are being reclaimed for housing. Big one in Cumberland, housing going down the street from me on Route 25, where there's a pit, all being reclaimed for housing. So I would have to think that this isn't the first rodeo for a DEP to be looking at this in a little more detail, knowing about lead and shooting.
It was, a hydrogeologic study conducted as part of their evaluation to look at, the potential of a lead plume entering the public drinking source. I guess we would just have to wait to see what the DEP's permit, and if there's any conditions related to this on it.
And I totally support that. I wouldn't want to give final approval until we hear back from them and hear exactly what they have to say.
Does DEP typically deal with the Portland Water District? They get their input? Any feedback from the district on
I don't
relative
know
pollutions?
how much on individual permits they talk back and forth. The Portland Water District is aware of this project and has reviewed the plans for this project. I don't know how much they have looked into the history of the site or not. I have not. They very well might have, but I have not talked to them about it.
I mean, you're not gonna know how much lead is into the banks until you start screening it out.
And like I said, you take a cut, you sample.
Experienced it, so.
What?
I've experienced it at Scarborough.
Yeah.
I've been on the picking crew. So it's an interesting process.
And in the end, there was an issue that was identified. My clients, we had a discussion with on it. We went to DEP and said, okay, how do we deal with this issue? Went to somebody who knows what they're doing relative to the gun range. Where would the biggest impact? Where would we sample to make sure that we're getting the most representative sample of this potential issue? We did that. We sampled that location. We know that we have elevated lead levels. We need to mediate. That's agreed upon with DEP. The process to do it. We've come up with a process. They're in agreement with it. And if there's any type of lead that had gotten into the water system, it's probably not, I probably shouldn't say that, but there is lead in main water and other places that you got to treat for. You know, it could be natural occurring lead that comes out of the water here, you know? But we are trying to do the right thing. There was an issue that was addressed or brought forth, and we feel that we have adequately addressed it by dealing with DEP, dealing with people who know about, you know, the issue relative to gun ranges, and coming up with a mediation plan to take care of that issue.
I think there's an issue with that process. I think there is a conflict of interest with the people that are developing a plan, handling the scientific data. So I think.
What's the conflict of interest?
Well, you're representing a client to try and develop a piece of land, and you're conducting that test based on DEP conversations, not methodologies.
There is no methodology for this. And that was what went over with DEP.
That would be a problem if there was no methodology.
And this was the best. This is a person in DEP who deals with this issue. And it was decided that this is the best way. EPA does not have guidance on this. So we came up with what would be the most appropriate sampling based upon his experience and the experience of people who deal with this issue. And relative to conflict of interest, we went out there and we acted as a professional. They're my clients, but I'm not going to do something illegal.
I understand.
In order to make a good result. In the results
we're questioning professionalism, we're questioning the connection between client and service provider.
Yeah, and how I see it is you had this problem in November, it goes up for sale. I just looked up the listing, it's still cached on the internet forever. And it says that there's a approved 30 lot subdivision. And then all of a sudden it goes off the market and then you're back here again. So it's odd. It's odd.
I'm guessing what happened, and I'm not the applicant, and I'm not involved in it, but I've been around this long enough to see what happens. And realtor speak, they did have a approval. They have preliminary approval from the board. So they have a approval. It is not what I would say is approval, but they're not lying in their listing. And this process of testing, of dealing with DEP, continuing the work they need to do to be here was continuing the entire time. I don't believe seeing all of the notes, being in communication with them, the timeline is not suspicious. Whatever reason they chose to list it or not, if they wanted to sell it to another party or if they were just generating interest around it, doesn't matter to me. But the timeline is not suspicious. This has been done professionally and above board throughout. And in the interest of the actual testing, there is no better third party to review this than DEP. The people.
So can I ask a question, Scott? So why are we seeing this for the first time if it's been around since November? Why isn't it in our packet?
I received because this is the DEP approval.
Okay.
And this communication with them. I received this last week on Thursday because I asked for it. And so we have this now.
when we get the DEP approval, we'll have it all packaged up in a big old bundle from them because it's their jurisdiction.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, can we move forward on the tabling motion?
Question. So, without further input from the board, we have a motion to table, seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Rattle the pages up to Augusta.
Sorry, Mr. Randall, you were last, and then that meant. That's the, sorry, short straw on the stick. Now I put this in my woodland bags.
Very interesting. What are we down to? 5? Item number 5.
Did you put all of those on the agenda?
I did not. All right, Robert Randall, Ospey Trail East, map 10, lot 92, a subdivision application for Ospey Trail East Business Park. Mr. Meek.
Good evening. Evening. My name is Rick Meek. I'm with Teradyne Consultants. I'm the civil engineer for this project. The board may remember this project from a year ago. We came in with a similar layout. However, we were trying to connect to Ospey Trail East via the frontage that this lot has. Through discussion with the board at a sketch plan, there was much interest in aligning the entrance with Bruce Lane across the street, which meant interconnection with the abutting parcel to the east, Dana Lampron's property, and I believe the board has acted on that private way plan. Saw that the findings of facts were read tonight or approved tonight. So Dana's land has a private way that extends from Ospey Trail into his site, and he's providing connection to this property as shown on the plan on the bottom of the page. So we're proposing a 12-lot commercial subdivision, and as laid out here, it'll include an 850-foot segment of road on Robert Randall's property. There'll be interconnection, future interconnection with other properties, one to the west, and then an easement will be provided running south from the second little turnout there across from lot 5. That runs, I don't know the footage, but it runs significantly into Robert's property to provide connection with the Five Brothers property that was developed and approved as a residential subdivision.
That's the location of the old Woods Road. Runs along the stone wall.
Like I said, an 850-foot road built to town avenue standards. There's no uses per se on the lots as defined right now. Each lot would have to come in for a site plan approval, but we're estimating between 1,000 and 1,500 trips per day when it's fully built out, which means that the road would have to be built to a commercial standard. Am I getting that right, Scott?
Sorry, how many trips did you say?
Between 1,000 and 1,500. Again, it estimates based on allowing any multiple uses that are allowed within the zone.
Arterial? No.
Not arterial, no.
It's not peak hour trips, it's just daily trips.
Collector? Oh, no, this falls on the form-based code.
So we have an industrial and commercial street category. The town avenue street is what we need to build it to.
Correct. The town avenue right-of-way is being utilized, but the actual road
Yeah, in terms of like depth of pit, gravel and like construction standards, that those elements are gonna be a little higher than what we've been seeing for like residential streets.
Correct. But to match what Dana's doing on his property, it'll be two 12-foot lanes and an 8-foot multi-use path, matching into what was approved for Dana's property. We are providing the 400-foot block length. There is a stream that runs through the property. So the first, the property or the alignment of the road, has a couple of curves in it. And so the first 400-foot block is shortly after entering the property. That would, if that was to be extended, it would have to cross the stream. 400 feet later, we have the next, possible future connection that also would have to cross the stream to provide future connectivity. We're providing public water extending in from Dana's property. We haven't really had significant discussions with Portland Water District, but that would follow that they would have to approve the plans before we could, or before we could get a final approval from the board. We're extending underground electric again from Dana's property in to serve these lots. Stormwater management. The road is going to be designed with catch basins and subsurface drainage pipe. Each lot on the south side would have a connection to that drainage system, which would route towards the bottom of the page. Behind lot 12 is a proposed gravel wetland. The lots 1 through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would drain to a drainage easement. Again, each site plan would be responsible for collecting their drainage and connecting to that drainage easement, again subsurface, which would be routed along the backs of those properties 1 through 6 to the open space near that triangular open space near Ospey Trail, where another gravel wetland is being constructed. We've got Scott's memo and see the deficiencies for completeness, so we'll be working on those over the next couple of weeks. And we have received review comments from Goral Palmer. We also have made steady progress on those, and we'll address those for next time. With that, I'd be happy to open up any questions. And I did see that Scott had a question about having a site walk, so if that's something the board would want to do, we'd certainly accommodate that.
Well, what's the board's thoughts on a site walk? I think we need a little bit less snow if we're gonna see the ground.
I was thinking May?
June 1st.
At least April.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty soggy.
50 degrees on Wednesday. Maybe it all melts.
Especially if we were to do it the first week of April, like for the meeting, that would be pretty, probably okay. I was thinking May. But.
Sorry, the Little Branch Rivers,
Yeah.
you and I will be the ones wearing the smart shoes.
Well, as a matter of, just a question, is it necessary to have the site walk prior to, say, optimistically, we were able to submit again for the April meeting? Is it necessary to have the site walk prior to that preliminary meeting?
They might have, we might see something on the site that we want to get addressed that might change stuff. I guess we don't want to keep that option open.
So April the 6th is our next, our April meeting's April the 6th.
And wetland out there, vernal pool, all that good stuff.
T-Bone thinks that that has been done.
Yeah, I think we did it last year. Did it, I think in 2020.
I haven't confirmed it yet, but yeah, we think that's been done.
I called the guy who did it today. He hasn't got back to me. I know he's done it.
Okay, because I guess that would be one thing we'd want to make sure was done, because we're coming into that magic season.
Yes.
If it hasn't been done, April, May, or March, April, a lot of times.
And I think at this point, the board, sounds like the board is interested in doing a sidewalk. I'm reading the room correctly. We could pencil it in for if they get on the April meeting, try and do it that afternoon before the meeting.
Yeah.
It gives us the latest time, the most time for it to melt. If they don't get on that agenda, we can push it off a little longer.
And have a little bit more time because the clocks ahead this coming up weekend.
Yeah.
I think the 8th, we're moving ahead.
It's also a month out, so there should be a sufficient amount of melting, let's say, per se.
So it warms up.
So,
You know how much snow there is in the fields out there, a foot or so?
There's not much right now. Hopefully we don't get much tomorrow. It's supposed to snow again tomorrow, Wednesday.
Friday.
1 to 3.
It's not that much right now.
I had my snowshoes on out there and I was pretty.
I could bring some snowshoes.
Yeah,
You would know, because you're close.
It gets heavy though. this
in my
winter.
field, anyway, which is not far from yours.
Well, if we get close, we'll send you up through the snowshoes, see if we can make.
I got snowshoes.
Let's hope it melts. It could melt, Friday. I know what you're saying.
You wanna go?
Sorry, Jackie, we're only having fun with Jackie.
Is
No,
there,
it's-
is there a bridge over the river? Stream?
Scott.
We have no plans to do any development on that side.
For our sidewalk. I mean, for the sidewalk, they're not, this project is on one side of the river, so we walk up to it. We shouldn't need to cross it in that they're not.
Has the river been located
Stay on that side of the river.
by survey?
Oh, I know that you like to go on a walkabout, right?
Yeah, sorry, we were asking about whether the Little Branch River that's in the plans, has it been cited or in a sense laid out by survey? I've walked it before in the past, back in the old days, but.
If a wetlands delineation has been done, it should be on there. We'll see.
What's on the plan is what was surveyed. Now, he does have a note on his plan that is approximate, so, but it's gonna be fairly close.
We'll just have to talk to the, real estate or somebody and say, hey, can we park there? So cut the distance.
Yeah.
We'll figure out.
Gonna have to deal with Dana.
We can park.
Is that little sidewalk?
Well, I
Park
don't
on
know.
his
Dana,
gravel
it's gonna be
road.
clear by then.
It's a private way now.
It's probably already in.
I
Be clear by then.
I can clean it up.
Yeah,
So there is so off where we were originally gonna come into the property, there is a gravel,
Stub in there.
yeah, so that parking would be available on that.
Make sure it's cleaned up.
Yeah, I think Dana's road's all in,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
his driveway, excuse me, his driveway.
So I guess before we lose it, the site walk, we were gonna do the meeting, before the meeting in April, assuming we're on the agenda. If we're not, we'll push it off to before the next meeting, just to give the ground a little more time to firm up.
6?
What time of day people generally free to get out there? See a 5?
5.
I'm looking at the rest of you. I can go where I go.
Oh yeah, well,
That's Easter Monday.
let's say we'll meet there at 5 o'clock on April
It's in the calendar.
6th.
Well, Frank will be back on the 1st, so yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So we'll pencil that in and I'll confirm with you when we're setting the agenda for that meeting, if that's awesome.
Another comment. So there's this, off that little gravel patch. that you drive in, there's that open space. Is that where you said you wanted to have a gravel wetland?
Yeah, so, yeah, on the sheet, C 2.1, shows the locations of the gravel wetlands.
So this is, we have Ospey Trail, which is kind of like Main Street. And anything right off Main Street, to me, ought to have curb appeal. Ought to be some kind of attractive, I don't know how you want to design it, but it shouldn't just be some gravel wetland, in my opinion.
Gravel wetland is just terminology, it's an impoundment area. The bottom of it is filled with soil and plant material that will help treat the stormwater.
I get that, and I've seen some that are really nasty looking and have horrible fences around them, and I've seen some that are rain gardens and have plantings, and have a completely different look to them.
Isn't this one behind a residential property, meaning, sorry, I hate to say it this way, sorry, where the gravel pit, sorry, where the map is right here?
We don't know this is because we don't know what's going to happen with Dana's lot, but it does.
It's about 150 feet off of the road.
Right, so I'm saying this line down here is those are the abutters land.
It connects to the main street. There's a little drop in.
The wetland proposed is about 150, maybe a little more feet off of the road.
See, in all these kinds of developments, theoretically, are supposed to also not just be developable lots. There is supposed to be a mixture of some open space, civic space, especially within this area. I'd just like us to keep that in mind somehow. And it's supposed to be a combination of what is proposed. And I can appreciate, all the lots. I was kind of surprised that they didn't have, if I read this properly, that we weren't going to put any kind of soil testing on those. That was going to happen at a later date.
No, I apologize. No, so we were under the impression that each site plan would be responsible for that, but Scott corrected me in that it's part of the requirements to have, so we would have soil testing done prior to final.
But not the design of the system, because you don't know what's going on the lot yet.
Correct.
No, just the testing, just so that it's
Yes.
suitable. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. I'm fine with that, but I would like us to be thinking about the whole nature of that, where it's being proposed, and have it be landscaped accordingly. We'll just leave it at that at this point in time.
The other thing we have to keep in mind is we got a three-phase power line going up through there.
And that's on Dana's property, but next to.
Back to those lots, yeah.
For the apartment complex that we just approved off of Rose Lane, that your firm did and you did, we did get a landscaping plan as part of that, and it included landscaping around and involved with the wetlands to some extent, and so just a little information about what that looks like so that we know it's not just a depression full of rocks, and 100%, like you said, there's plant material in there. Get a little more information just to soothe some concerns. I think we could go along with that, and hopefully, at least, we get a little better idea what it's gonna look like.
Right, I would appreciate that.
There's one right off the end of Quail Ridge Road, if you're interested to see what that looks like.
I mean, you can see what
There's
the
two
one
at the end.
behind Hannaford looks like. It's a disaster. But I've seen some that are very nicely designed with, they almost look like little rain gardens with grasses.
That's what, I don't know what type of pond is behind Hannaford, but the gravel wetlands are designed to, yes, to impound stormwater, but they have, the surface of the bottom of that detention area is planted material, specified.
I don't think there's any treatment in the one at Hannaford's, it was just detention.
Yeah,
It's
so
just
that,
detention, yeah.
So just a little more information on that, just to help them visualize it.
so there would be landscaping plans associated with each.
Right, I mean, we're not landscaping the whole site.
No.
This was just around the stormwater to give us a visual, and it doesn't, see, I leave it up to you what form that takes.
Okay.
Just some context.
We just, that's what I'm saying, from the location standpoint is, those properties down here, these rows over here are, sorry, there's a residential house, there's the real estate office, there's the dental office. There's actually several building structures, meaning or lots in front of this where, gravel pit might end up, so knowing where the gravel pit is in relationship to the old house.
Please don't refer to it as a gravel pit.
I'm sorry, I still have gravel pit on the mind.
There's no shooting here or anything.
Yeah, I'm sorry, now we're gonna have to ask everyone, was this a range? And I'm sorry if it's barbecue range or in a sense free range or whatever, so. But my point is it's gonna be impactful to Carolyn's point is how easy, if there's a house in front of it and then there's some shrubs, you're not gonna be able to see it if it's behind that residential unit. because it is a pit, or, sorry, it is a gravel indent, whatever you want to call it. You may not be able to see very much of it if,
It's like I said, I think when we got the design of the gravel wetland that was involved in that other project, we got some more information that is on these plans, and I'm sure there'll be submissions. And that gave us a better context of what that would look like.
Sure,
You're already developing it.
Sure, to be fair, that was adjacent to Rose Lane, so most of the vegetation were street trees that were for Rose Lane, but.
For going along it, but in that plan, there was some information about what a gravel wetland looks like.
Yeah, and I've included a detail of the gravel wetland on C 2.3. To your point, Carolyn, there's no vegetation, on the, around the perimeter of the gravel wetland. But I can certainly work with the applicant and come up with something to show you what that would look like.
Thank you.
I mean, the gravel road, stub road, whatever you wanna call it, goes almost into that pond area, right?
Yeah, that would be discontinued, right?
Could almost just connect that through to the access drive you get down there to create a pedestrian walkway, something down through there.
That's what I was
Be more in line with.
How did you read my mind? I was literally thinking that. Because it is a kind of a long, could be a long way around and it's already there.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of fits with the location.
We're just trying to come up with something, it's almost there anyway, so the.
And there's no, it doesn't look like there would be a way towards the end of the street to cut across.
Put some nice chairs out there overlooking the pond.
so you're not gonna catch any trout in the Little Branch River, Charlie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry, in your own memo, it says I don't, don't view this as moving as complete, so, sorry, page 2.
Do you see anything coming up that we need to address?
Well, I do have a question, and I talked to Scott a little bit about it, but the first item of completeness was talking about the formal connectivity master plan, and I don't know what that is, but on the subdivision plan, I've identified areas of connectivity to adjoining properties. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, or if you could direct me to what you're looking for exactly, or if the subdivision plan covers that.
Took the one we had from Five Brothers.
181-80D.
And I think the board, if they want to see a formal plan for this, then by all means indicate that. I know I have been, and we have, the board has approved on other projects, just showing that these connections exist and that you're aware of the larger context of how this fits in. And that's certainly, I mean, I know that I appreciate this. The applicant here has worked very closely with us and with their abutters to take all that context into, and has delayed this project somewhat to make sure it's going to work with what other people's projects and what they may or may not end up being. So I appreciate that, and I think we're seeing this is exactly what these connectivity master plan idea was supposed to foster. It's these type of partnerships with the abutters along this stretch of road. And that's where we're getting it. I think we're getting a payoff from that right here. So whether we get a formal plan that says connectivity master plan on the top, or if we look at this and say, yes, this is showing an awareness of the context of where this lot is and how it's going to connect to those other developments, I think the intention of that has been met. But if the board wants to see that on its own sheet, just let us know and we'll get that to you.
This is almost real. This is evolving, but it's providing that overall master plan by knowing what the adjacent lots are doing and how they interconnect.
I think that would be helpful to have that just as a visual. I really do.
And I do actually have something rudimentary that shows the Five Brothers project in relation to this, and then
two stubs that come up to that.
Yeah, so I can, it won't be a formal plan.
I don't think it needs to be elaborate, it's just a visual for us.
It won't be a plan, but I can certainly provide a graphic that shows that.
And it's still in the early phases, so it's by no means, I hate to say this, like, it's not locking in stone what's going to happen, because, sorry, we just literally signed Five Brothers plans tonight.
That's what the connectivity master plan is. It's not intended to be a set in stone. It's
Vision.
a vision. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up and running.
I don't have any more questions.
Sure.
I don't have any more questions.
I have a comment. I just want to say that I think this is a fantastic project. Commercial subdivision is exactly what this town needs, more commercial development. So I'm really happy to see this coming to the board. I look forward to seeing this gonna make its way through planning. So.
Great, thank you.
I'm so psyched.
Very good.
All right, appreciate your time. I'm sorry we didn't.
Yeah, we'll try to move you up on the calendar there, like you should have tried to be like the other guy and jump the thing.
Didn't open it up to the public.
Oh, I'll do it. I make a motion to open up for public comment at this time.
Moved and seconded. All approval of the board. Aye. Brandon?
Any public comment?
No comment?
Make a motion to close it?
Moved and seconded to close it. All those in favor? Okay, official. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
Second.
Third. Very much, everybody.
Now start my